Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. We're streaming out live on X, Rumble, also on YouTube, Facebook Live, and at 21stcenturywire.com, as well as alternatecurrentradio.com. Again, I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. Thank you so much for joining us for this weekly omnibus news and analysis radio and television program. We are going to be hitting a couple of big stories in the first hour. We'll be also joined after the break with our team at alternatecurrentradio.com. We'll be joined by some of our teammates. Hopefully afterwards, we had a very lively discussion in Overdrive last week. Hopefully we'll have something similar for you this time. And as so often is the case, we prepared a show. We had a show in mind the last 2 days. I was just thinking about what we're going to be covering when Friday was closing, and of course Saturday's time to sort of think and reflect. And also we posted a video up on our YouTube channel, which is also, I think, worth watching. It was my ascent up to the summit of Flatiron Mountain in just outside of Apache Junction, Arizona. Some of you might find that to be entertaining and enlightening, maybe even interesting. Who knows? I'll let you be the judge, but that's up on our YouTube channel right now. If you go to 21st Century Wire on YouTube, like and subscribe that video, please. Let's help push some of our content up. A lot of you guys have been doing this. Again, if you're on the stream right now, and we'll give a plug for this later, but we really need your help to physically push our content through the algorithmic suppression, if you will, the glass ceiling that's been imposed on this channel and this platform for such a long time, but we're breaking it finally, and only because of your help doing that. So thank you guys for liking, subscribing on YouTube and Rumble as well. And also at 21stcenturywire.com, that's also Rumble is our live streamer on the main show page at 21 Wire. But what we were going to talk about this week was really the fact that it looks like all signals are pointing to a war with Iran, a resumption of the conflict. That's what it looks like. That's what all the evidence suggests. That's what we're pretty much guessing, and it's an educated guess based on the signals. And of course, the United States doesn't move all of its military assets into the region for nothing. And that's what they've been steadily doing over the last couple of weeks during this so-called ceasefire. That's what we're going to talk about. And also just sort of the demise of the president, Donald Trump, and the administration is just hitting a wall. There's no question about it. And then, as if by magic, something happened last night in Washington, D.C., which we're going to cover. Anyway, which was what we're going to call at 21st Century Wire, buckle up, it's the Daily Shooter is back. And we'll be covering that also in the first hour as well. This was a Daily Shooter event. There is no question about it. And if you watch our program and you follow 21 Wire and the work we've done over the years on mass shootings and false flag terror attacks, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This was 100% a Daily Shooter event, and we'll break down why and how in a little bit. And also we'll also open this discussion up into the Overdrive segment with Hesher, Ruckus, all daily shooter, steeped in daily shooter expertise. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. You don't want to miss the second hour. I'm telling you right now, it's going to get, it's going to get a little bit hairy. So anyway, in terms of the task at hand, let's get down to business here. And the most important thing is don't get distracted by all of this propaganda and understand that there is a war afoot. The United States is not done. Israel is not done. Before we get to that, let me just point you to our website here. This is the Sunday screening this week. Again, this is curated by our editorial team at 21 Wire. We do a documentary film. We feature one every week for our audience. This one is called Hormuz, the Story of a Strait. This is a beautifully shot documentary film, so you definitely want to check this one out. This is, again, up on our website right now. If you go to the features section, you'll see the Sunday screening. This is a documentary film we do. We hand select a documentary film every week. This is just the latest one, which we are featuring there. So check that out. That's going to be certainly interesting indeed. And if you're watching us, give us a shout on X in the comment sections if you are seeing our broadcast. And the reason I'm asking and saying that is because we have, in the past, X has basically erased us. This is Elon Musk's free speech platform, supposedly, but they usually erase us from the feed if there's anything significant happening with the administration, like they're bombing or there's something that's getting a massive reaction. So if you're seeing us on X, definitely give us a shout. So I'm not sure, where our audience is on that platform. It's hard to tell. In one case, Elon erased the program afterwards. So it wasn't even available after the live broadcast. So that's the sort of thing the free speech warriors are doing there at Establishment Gatekeeper Central. So again, give us a shout in the comments on X if you're watching the live stream or you're able to see it in your feed, especially if you follow us on X. A lot of people follow us and they don't get notifications. So hit the notification bell on our X account if you are following us, and that will guarantee that you're going to see us in your feed, because what Elon's done is just disabled that for all our followers. I don't know who did that. It was last year or the year before, and all of a sudden nobody was able to see us. So anyway, that's just the latest in the long run of censorship battles with the so-called free speech platform known as X, formerly Twitter. So anyway, we'll get down to business now. Let's get down to the task at hand here. And this is the theme of today's show, which is war theater. So everything you saw last night in Washington, D.C. at the White House Press Correspondents' Dinner, okay? This is an annual event. It's like a tradition in D.C. where the press come and a comedian's hired and they roast the president and everybody has a good chuckle. And it's just one of those things that, a chance for Washington to, as the British would say, take the piss out of itself. And it's all done in good humor and stuff like that. But Trump has taken this to a new level. Now, you have to remember, this event was, in his first term, was canceled most of the time, or it never happened. I don't know if it happened last year or not, but they just canceled the whole thing. And I think because the press was just so hostile to Trump, he just couldn't take it. And so anyway, he's got it now, but now he's got control of it, and it's a Trump-produced event. It's a Trump-produced event. So we're starting to see what that sort of theater looks like. And so everything you see in Washington, everything you see is basically this. It's theater. This is war theater. This is the best way to describe it. This is prepping the public for the next phase, the next crisis, the next wave of the crisis. That's exactly what this is. This image, just what you're seeing here with from left hand side or to the right, J.D. Vance, the vice president, Kash Patel, then Donald Trump, and then I think this is Mark Wayne Mullen. It's a very strange name, Mark Wayne, like Mark Wayne, one word, Mark Wayne. Mullins, I think he's the DHS secretary, absolutely psychotic. And then I think on the end you have Todd Blanche. I think it's the assistant or interim FBI director. He looked very uncomfortable, by the way, during this whole production afterwards. So there's supposedly a shooting in the White House, or not at the White House press correspondence dinner. This was at I think the Hilton Hotel or something in Washington D.C. There was supposedly somebody stormed the lobby, managed to assemble a gun in the lobby in front of everybody, and then just started shooting randomly. And of course, they tackled him and they've charged him. And you have a type of a narrative that's building here. They say another assassination attempt on the president, next to the Butler, Pennsylvania event, and then the Mar-a-Lago event, which really wasn't an assassination attempt. They found an operative linked to U.S. intelligence who was hiding in the bushes. Ryan Ruth, I think his name was, who's very involved in recruiting mercenaries for the U.S. government's proxy war in Ukraine. But anyway, put that aside. Nothing to see here. Move along, and you have this shady event. So this is called a show of force. Okay, look at this. The theater for the cameras. So after this so-called shooting, Trump just basically lackadaisically says, "Oh, by the way, there's a shooting tonight, and this is a great job by the FBI, our law enforcement. I've rebuilt the FBI and I've rebuilt the military." He turned it into kind of a bizarre public relations kind of junket event. Very strange. And then this is the show of force, though. You need everybody standing up there in front of the camera. We'll show you a clip in a minute. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, are they going to blame this on, was he inspired by Iran, the shooter? I don't know. I'm waiting for whatever the narrative is going to be. There's probably going to be a few different versions of this story that the media will float out just to kind of get the public, because the public's in a kind of a soft psychological state. That's just part of this, how they execute these theatrical events, is that they sort of plug it with propaganda. So that you'll see one sort of, pro-MAGA account say, this was an Iranian-inspired shooter. And then you'll see another one saying that he was a Democrat and he was a liberal. And you'll see another one saying that he was an anti-Semite, or whatever. You'll see all these various conflicting reports from influencers and even in mainstream media sources. And eventually it will settle into one narrative. And then, who knows what the story is behind this alleged Daily Shooter character. We'll show him in a few minutes. But anyway, the big story is, and again, don't take your eyes off the ball, folks, okay? The big story is there's a war on, okay? And this is a president that's failing miserably in selling this undeclared war of aggression, which has been a disaster for the United States economically, politically, geopolitically, and militarily. On every front, it's a defeat, massive defeat. For this president, for this administration. So he's really having trouble selling the next wave of this war. So he's positioned all the military assets. We'll show you those in a minute. But in terms of getting buy-in from the public, it's a total failure from Trump. And Israel is completely out of the picture. You notice how quiet they've been. Netanyahu has been pretty quiet. And because the polling in the U.S. is that the majority of Americans have had it up to here with Israel. That's what the polling showing. Trump knows this. Netanyahu knows this. So they're doing the smart thing, just keeping a low profile. But they still have to do this war. Israel wants it. The U.S. Government wants it. Trump wants it. So they still have to somehow get this war through. They have to continue this war. You're not interested in a ceasefire. The ceasefire is fake. Okay, the ceasefire was to buy time to reload, rearm, and prepare the next wave of attacks and brace themselves for Iranian retaliation. That's what this was for, quite obviously. Because who called for the ceasefire? It wasn't the Iranians. Usually the losing party begs for a ceasefire. Now, here's the president, and I'll bring this up on stage here. This is the president himself. This is what he has to say, and we'll we'll show his statement here. He's just off the airplane here after sort of, struggling down the stairs like Joe Biden. I mean, watching Trump on Air Force One is pretty scary. Okay, this guy is in geriatric mode, the likes of which, well, very much Biden-esque in his.
We heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want. Again, we have all the cards. They have no military left, practically. They have no leaders left. We don't know who the leaders are. Nobody knows who the leaders. I don't think they know who the leaders are, very importantly. So you saw.
Okay, this guy is just too much. Okay, everything he said there was a lie. Okay, if you hold all the cards, Donald, then why did you beg for a ceasefire on April 8th? Iran wasn't asking for a ceasefire. You wanted a ceasefire. You hold all the cards. You wanted a ceasefire. You don't know who the leaders are. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's the only thing Trump said that's true, is he doesn't know who the leaders are. He doesn't know who the leaders are is because his advisors keep telling him that the leader is like some guy that Steve Witkoff's talking to on the phone, who may or may not be in Tehran, but could be a potential leader for the future, like some curveball Ahmed Chalabi type character. Might as well be a used car salesman from New Jersey who's Iranian second generation. And the U.S. will just say, that's our guy. He's Iranian. He's our Juan Guaido for Tehran. He's our president. Parade him in front of Congress, guys, like you did with Juan Guaido. Just say, wow, that's our president. Just find some Iranian guy from the tri-state area. Someone who sort of is a loose acquaintance of like Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner or something like that. Anyway, it's beyond a joke. It's hard to take this president seriously because everything that's coming out of his mouth is complete balderdash. So he's going on about, we hold all the cards. That's why you begged for a ceasefire. Okay, that's fine. If you believe any of this coming out of the White House right now, he doesn't know anything about Iran. He thinks that their Air Force was destroyed, their Navy was destroyed. Well, if their Navy was destroyed, how come you can't control the Straits of Hormuz? Because you must hold all the cards, right, Donald? Well, you don't. Your Navy wasn't destroyed. And as I will show you, their Air Force wasn't destroyed either. Surprise, surprise. Nor was their missile capability, not even close. So there's a panic right now in Washington. They do not know how to proceed. And not only that, to make matters worse, the U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf, and there are many of them, are destroyed. They're gone. This is the worst defeat. After World War II, this is the biggest defeat in United States history, more than Vietnam, from a geostrategic point of view, okay? And I'll show you exactly how. So this guy's trying to sell, and the media that back him are trying to sell a catastrophic failure as some kind of a victory. And he'll just sit there and lie through his teeth to the press here. I mean, it's ridiculous. So anyway, it's all theater. So again, he's trying hard to sell, still got these old talking points. Iran can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. They never had a nuclear weapon. They weren't developing a nuclear weapon. Your own intelligence assessment from the DNI, all the U.S. agencies, 18 U.S. agencies that cost the taxpayer collectively something like $300 billion a year, $250 billion or $350 billion. They said they're not developing, haven't been developing. They abandoned their nuclear weapons program in 2003. Okay. So, but he's still pushing this talking point because that is what the Israelis have told him he needs to do. Okay. So those are the talking points. And this is the same fake WMD. It's identical to Iraq. Iraq was predicated on a fabricated weapons of mass destruction narrative the government just blatant, the press was in on it, blatantly lying to the American people about weapons of mass destruction because they think that will horrify people in the West enough to get them to back this shady war of conquest in the region on behalf of Israel, by the way, the Iraq War. Israel and Netanyahu himself lobbied for that war for years. Eventually they got it. They've been lobbying for this one for decades, and now they've got it. And again, it's a fake weapon of mass destruction, in this case, nuclear weapons narrative that's being pushed onto the American people by a government that's clearly lying. Every bit is, in fact, more. They're more pathological liars, the Trump administration, than the Bush administration. Pretty much you can put them in the same league, but the outlandishness of the lies coming out of this administration are quite phenomenal because they're having to lie on every level, militarily, economically, and politically. They have to lie on every single level, whereas the Bush administration didn't have to contend with all these other problems that have been opened up because of this disastrous war. Anyway, that's Trump trying his hardest to basically sell a pup to the American people and to the world. Unfortunately, nobody's buying it. That's the problem. So there's Trump trying to sell this thing. So let's take a look at how this is actually shaping up in reality. So the United States have brought their third aircraft carrier to the Middle East. The latest addition is the USS George H.W. Bush, arrived in the Indian Ocean, according to U.S. CENTCOM, alongside several guided missile destroyers. And that's the one to pay attention to because they're going to be busy. The guided missile destroyers are going to be busy and mostly doing air defense, okay? And by the way, this is named after a president that shot down an Iranian passenger airliner and refused to apologize. The United States shot down Iranian Airlines passenger airliner and killed everybody on board. And George H.W. Bush refused to apologize for it at the time. So, Americans, if it makes you uncomfortable that, some Iranians at rallies are saying death to America, what they really mean is death to the American regime. They hate the U.S. government. This is why. And then they've named an aircraft carrier after this guy, George H.W. Bush. So, just look at the optics, folks. Anyway, USS Abraham Lincoln is already there. It's just loitering in the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. And they're supporting the enforcement of a illegal U.S. naval blockade, which is an act of war, which is another reason why you're not going to get any negotiations from the Iranians. And then the USS Gerald R. Ford Strike Group, that's in the northern Red Sea. I'll show you the details of all of this. Okay, so that's the other lie that Trump was attempting to do there. When you saw him in that last clip, he's saying, we're not going to send Steve Witkoff and our negotiators. I mean, it's just kind of a joke, as you know, that his son-in-law, who is basically a charlatan and a con artist, Jared Kushner, and then Steve Witkoff, another charlatan and a con artist, two Israeli assets, effectively, are being sent to Pakistan as negotiators, and they send the 41-year-old vice president who doesn't know anything about anything as to kind of give it an air of legitimacy. That's the basic package. And so Trump's setting up a narrative here, which is that, I'm pulling off my negotiation team. We don't want to waste any time with these Iranians. They don't know what they're doing. Vance was basically echoing the same lie because that's what he was told to say. But the reality is Iran never sent a negotiations team. That's what Trump won't say. He's creating a fake straw man talking point. It's the same as the nuclear weapons claim. Okay, Iran can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Well, they're not developing one. So what are you talking about? So he's making it sound like that's the problem, and that he's reacting to that. And the U.S.'s position is justified. That's a classic straw man argument. That's a logical fallacy. That's a kind of low level straw man argument. Is what sort of high school level. That's the level Trump is operating on. It's kind of a high school straw man debate tactics, not very sophisticated. But anyway, so he's saying we're pulling our negotiations team out. Another straw man argument. Iran wasn't sending anybody to negotiations. They refused. Why? Because they don't want to waste their time. So he's saying, again, every accusation is a confession. Whether it's listening to Israelis with their sort of talking points and propaganda, or Trump, and they're indistinguishable at this point. But so he's saying we're not going to waste our time because they weren't prepared. But actually, the U.S., when they went to Islamabad last time, they didn't do any preparation. That's what the reports confirm. They just showed up, looked at the Iranian document, said, hold on, we can't make a decision. We need to call our boss, Benjamin Netanyahu. And Netanyahu says, no, cancel the deal. We'll just pack up and leave. And then they accuse the Iranians of not having agency and that Iran didn't send real decision makers there. That was an accusation by J.D. Vance. It was actually a confession that he had no agency, J.D. Vance, that he was on the phone to Trump a dozen times, who was micromanaging his every move. He couldn't make a decision. He didn't know what he was doing. It's an embarrassment, but it's also insulting to the public, who are actually, anybody with an above room temperature IQ could kind of work out these basics. And they think that the public, and of course, if you're talking about the Fox News, MAGA, what's left of MAGA, by the way, all the intelligent MAGAs have peeled off. They're gone. Now you're left with the Fox News, Newsmax crowd. And I'm not going to use the epithet of low IQ that the president is using so often. And I'd like to see Donald Trump's IQ tested. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? If the president had an IQ test. I mean, the results would be very interesting, let's just say. But anyway, they're accusing all these things of the Iranians, selling it to the American people and hoping you're stupid enough to sort of swallow it. But anyway, so the president's basically trying to create a narrative that he has a good deal and the Iranians are refusing to bargain. Therefore, it justifies a war. That's basically what he's saying. So we'll bring this back up on screen here. So they're assembling the military assets. That's very clear. Okay. Now this is expensive. It's risky. It's putting a strain on the what's left of the resources of the U.S. military. And there's no guarantee of success. Well, they believe there's a guarantee of success, but they have the last munitions here. We reckon that this is probably one. I think the strategy here by the U.S. to me is pretty clear. The strategy here is probably all out missile. They'll empty what's left of the missile stock in terms of JASSMs and cruise missiles in the first week. And that's it. Done. No more. Global stocks, non-existent. Okay. If they do, they'll have to basically empty stocks from every other theater around the world. And they're in the process of doing that right now. But they still need more time, and they may or may not be able to pull it off. So they reckon they have about a week's worth of missiles and bombs that they can do at standoff munitions at a distance to keep safe distance away from Iran so Iran can't hit back. And then they believe that they'll have weakened Iran to such a degree they'll be able to do bombing campaigns after that with aircraft. And that would be impinging on Iranian airspace, if not flying over Iran. That's week 2. Okay. So what it looks like to me is a 2-week campaign. This is a last-ditch, desperate effort by the president, basically. And we'll just give you a brief. We'll just give you a brief. Sort of. This was done by Al Jazeera, so we're gonna show you this clip and then comment on it. Okay, we're gonna give some critique on their analysis and comment on it. But this is basically what they are sort of proposing here, according to these analysts. Which I'll give you my critique of this, but this is what they're saying.
confused. Let me simplify this further for two carriers working together. From midnight to noon, the U.S. Abraham Lincoln owns the darkness. This is the night shift. The Lincoln, a veteran of the Nimitz class, relies on her experienced air wing and battle-tested steam catapults to hammer targets under the cover of night. For 12 hours, she launches wave after wave, but as the sun climbs high, her shift ends.
Okay, so we're talking about this sort of tag team operation here with these various carrier assets here, and then they'll move on here, and then so we're into sort of the main part of after the first few days or after the first week, the bombing phase.
Launch system. She generates a higher tempo sorties, launching raids when visual identification is easiest. She's faster, more efficient, and relentless. The result is a suffocating embrace. The Lincoln haunts the night. The Ford dominates the day. Between them, they ensure that for the adversary, there is no safe hour. There is only the noise of the next launch. But with two carriers, the Navy unlocks the continuous strike doctrine. As stated, the Lincoln owns the night, the Ford owns the day.
Okay, so they're talking about 24-hour strikes and bombing. So this is the plan, basically. It's exactly what they're shaping up to attempt to do here. No doubt about that. And so I think they're leaving out a few things, but I would say that this White House probably hasn't factored in a lot of the other extenuating risks that they're going to face, which is that it's pretty clear, and even U.S. experts have admitted Iran hasn't used all of their capabilities. They still have. That was an admission this week, which I was shocked to hear from the U.S. military planners, to say that Iran hasn't quite expended or used all of their military cards, if you will, on the battlefield. So that will be interesting. So that's the analysis they're giving. So let's put this into perspective. I'm going to bring this back, bring our presentation back here. Okay, so you got these three main strike groups here. So this is the U.S. carrier strike group. So right now in position, previously, you look in the upper left-hand corner, you see the USS Gerald Ford. That was in Greece in dry dock getting repairs because of what looked like to me and others a mutiny on board. Sailors setting fire, sabotaging the aircraft carrier, so it basically wasn't seaworthy. It's been deployed for it's a brand new aircraft carrier, state of the art. Been deployed for 300 days. It's passed the world record for the longest U.S. deployment. There's a reason they don't deploy that long, because these are massive boats and require so much in terms of maintenance, even the brand new ones. So the strain on the crew, the ship itself, is just too much to bear. So the U.S. Navy, in certain ways, coming unglued. Down here, lower right-hand corner, USS Abraham Lincoln. They're just on the edge of the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, keeping a safe distance from Iran, approximately 1,000 miles away to avoid becoming a target itself. Obviously, if the Iranian military is obliterated, why don't they just park it right up next to Iran? Well, they won't. So that's how you know that's a lie by Trump and Pete Hegseth, claiming that the Iranian military is obliterated. It's clearly not. They're scared. And so if we look at the update on this, we'll bring this in here. So now we have the Gerald Ford has been repositioned, and I'll bring this a little bit larger so you can see. The Gerald Ford's been repositioned to the northern Red Sea. You'll see that in the sort of upper left-hand corner of this graphic, that little carrier there. It's not little, but just for the graphics point of view, it's a smaller looking carrier on screen, but these are all the same size. That's Northern Red Sea. Why the Northern Red Sea? Two reasons, which we illustrate here. One is that the Houthis are still posing a threat to the Americans at the Bab el-Mandeb Straits. That's the bottom of the Red Sea. You can see Yemen controls that opening. Very key strategic waterway. And so that's why this aircraft carrier is being kept at a safe distance. The other reason is, in the event of U.S. hostilities, Iran has promised that it's going to hit Gulf oil and gas facilities, energy production, and so forth. So Saudi Arabia then becomes a target, okay? And the port of Yanbu, which I've outlined there with the little red dot, Yanbu, that's the east-west pipeline used to bypass the Persian Gulf Straits of Hormuz. So that's the main lifeline for Saudi's economy right now. Iran could easily hit that. The Houthis, what the West call the Houthis in the media, which their real name is Ansar Allah. They've already hit Yanbu before. So they have the ability, even with their older drones and rockets, to damage and disable the Yanbu port in Saudi Arabia. And certainly that's going to be on Iran's target list. And Iran has the missiles that would just basically take that whole operation out. And that's 2 million barrels a day, roughly, completely off the market for Saudi Arabia. They'll be in big trouble at that point. So I think the Gerald Ford and also the destroyers in that strike group, because there'll be at least two destroyers and frigates that will be flanking and protecting, as well as submarines, protecting that carrier group. They'll be used for anti-aircraft or anti-missile defense. They'll also be deployed to protect Israel. So I think that's why they're in that position right there, to protect Saudi and the Israeli assets. And if they can't loiter south because of the Houthis and the fear the U.S. have of the Bab el-Mandeb. Now, we know that's the case because if you look at the USS George W. Bush there that just arrived on the picture there, okay, they had to go all the way around South Africa to get to that position, past Madagascar, all the way up, and then they're still loitering at a safe distance here, probably a lot lower than where I've got them there. Okay. And why didn't they just go through the Red Sea? No, they had to avoid the Houthis, you see. So isn't that interesting? So that's kind of more proof that the U.S. didn't defeat Yemen last year. And of course, you still have the USS Abraham Lincoln. So that's what that picture looks like. So that's our sort of analysis there. Big thanks to our team for putting this graphical map together. We could animate that, by the way, but for the purposes of today, we'll just show you the still frames on that animation that we created there. So anyway, that's kind of how it looks. So you've got these three carrier strike groups, and they're going to be exposed. Okay, they're going to be exposed. They will be targeted one way or another. There's only so much they can do at that distance. They're going to rely heavily on air-to-air refueling for U.S. jets to fly sort of round-trip missions. So it looks to me, and again, this is just my guess, that they need three carriers, because what they'll do is certain F-35s or F-15s or what have you that will be in the second wave after the standoff munitions are expended. Then the fighter bombers that are taking off of those aircraft carriers may be also, they'll be able to fly their mission, refuel over a friendly jurisdiction like Jordan, for instance, or something like this, or Saudi Arabia, and then land on another aircraft carrier potentially. So we could see some sort of teamwork, if you will, between these two carrier strike groups in order to close the distance on this. Nonetheless, there's huge logistical problems involved. And these problems are compounded by some other realities. And those realities have become clear in recent weeks. And by the way, this is coming at a time when the U.S. Secretary of the Navy, John C. Fallon, was basically fired. They say he resigned. I think he was fired or pushed out by Pete Hegseth and the neocons, okay? And it's probably because they wanted to change the rules of engagement to enforce this naval blockade. In other words, fire on any Iranian ships, be they military or commercial, board them, seize them, basically piracy. So the U.S. Navy has become a pirate. It's become a privateer, pirate force working on behalf of a foreign government, in this case, Israel. So that's what the likes of Trump and Hegseth have reduced the United States to. Military is basically a for-hire corporate mercenary force for the Israeli lobby. It's effectively, and the U.S. taxpayers paying for it. So So we pay for it in blood and treasure, and the Israelis get it for free. So this is their war. It's not the U.S.'s war, but they've made it the U.S.'s war. And the people supporting this president still, if there's any left supporting him, they're totally on board with this agenda here. And again, more receipts here. This is exactly what happened when they sacked the head of the Navy. Trump orders U.S. military shoot to kill Iranian small boats choking Straits of Hormuz. That's clearly what this is about. They said, oh, this admiral or the head of the Navy, he didn't want to build the golden Navy. Everything's golden with Trump, the golden dome. The golden age, the golden Navy. I mean, he's just obsessed with gold. I mean, shades of the golden calf, for biblical lore. Moses wasn't happy about that, obviously, when he came down from the mountain. But shoot to kill orders, get rid of anybody in the U.S. command structure that opposes this. And because it goes against U.S. law. It goes against U.S. law and international law. That's right, U.S. law. That means the U.S. has adopted the Geneva Conventions and the laws of war. It's been ratified by Congress under the Supremacy Clause. The United States government has. So that means it's the law of the land. So Donald Trump says, well, we don't respect, or we don't have to recognize international law. All that matters is what I believe in my gut. Okay, what Donald Trump believes in is a gut that's filling itself with McDonald's and Little Caesars pizza. That's what he eats, and DoorDash. That's what's feeding Donald Trump's gut, so we can all rest in the confidence of knowing that this stable genius has got no issues intellectually and psychologically, whatnot. So why is this more of a problem? What I just showed you is very shaky, this new war plan. Why? Recent report here. Iran caused billions in damage to U.S. military bases in the Gulf. These are reports from NBC, also recent revelations in the New York Times as well. So initial damage that was caused by U.S. This is interesting here for Hegseth. U.S. base camp Bushring in Kuwait by an Iranian F-5 fighter jet in the first few days of the war. Well, we were told that in the first few days of the war that the United States basically wiped out the Iranian Air Force. Well, clearly they didn't totally wipe out the Iranian Air Force, because the Iranian Air Force was wiping out U.S. bases, believe it or not. So this interesting admission here by the mainstream media. Okay, what else have they lied to us about, the American people? Who knows? Could be endless, that list. So that's there's that, and this is an interesting part here. These are the U.S. military bases used to attack Iran. Okay, now you've got the blue dots, you've got the red dots here, and you've got the sort of light blue dots as well. So what we learned from this is that a lot of the blue dots around the vicinity of the Persian Gulf, those have been evacuated. They're uninhabitable. The Iranians wiped them out. Do you realize the scale of this as a military defeat? That the White House doesn't want to talk about it. The press are so tight-lipped about this. That the United States lost the use of up to 24 military bases and facilities in and around the Middle East as a result of starting this war alongside Israel against Iran. So they've given up their entire geostrategic footprint in the Middle East, except for Israel, and maybe Incirlik Air Force Base in Turkey, and that's borrowed time right there, as well as the base in Jordan, which also has been targeted by the Iranians and probably will be wiped out in the next wave of hostilities. Plus, Djibouti becomes a target. So if you look at this map, the bottom blue dot there, if you look closely, that bottom blue dot, that's sort of Djibouti. Okay, that's the Horn of Africa, and that's within range of Iranian missiles, by the way. and that's a game changer. You can't see Diego Garcia, but it's quite a ways south. I think you'd just be able to see it. Let's see if we can. There we go. You see that red dot, the bottom. We're taking our ticker tape off. The bottom red dot there. You could say that's Diego Garcia. Okay, so the red dots are the key. That's what we're going to look at. A lot of these other blue dots have either been hit or compromised over the last couple of weeks and months. Okay, so but I want to focus on the red dots because that's the real story here, and that's what you have to be worried about wherever you are, and I'll tell you why, and here's why. Okay, so but just think about that. All of that was needed to mobilize an attack on Iran, an attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran. All of those dots you see, blue and red, all of them were required to mount military strikes on Iran that failed to achieve regime change, number two, failed to defeat Iran militarily, three, failed to somehow break the international support for Iran. So, and also has destroyed the global economy and is severely damaging the U.S. economy. So all of that's required, and they did not get any success. Not only that, they lost all of the U.S. military bases in the Middle East, almost all of them, are either unusable or uninhabitable as we speak. And they'll never be able to be rebuilt or re-inhabited by U.S. forces. It just won't happen. So with all of that imperial massive footprint, they couldn't get a win against this one country called Iran. Look at that. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. Let's zoom in on Europe. Okay, so they relied heavily on those red dots in Europe. Okay, now some of those red dots fall within the sort of, they could say, the current range of Iranian missiles. You could say those would be Greece and Cyprus, namely, because of the size and scale. We couldn't do precisely pinpoint accuracy here. But I would say we could put another red dot in Cyprus as well, just off the coast of Israel. But that's a light blue dot there. You can see the Eastern Mediterranean if you look down the lower part there. But that's still Europe. Cyprus is part of the EU. So the UK, Germany, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, Romania, okay, Eastern Europe, or let's say Kosovo. They can't fight this war against Iran now because the U.S. has lost its footprint in the Middle East. And now it needs Europe to attack Iran. They couldn't have done it without the British, the Germans, the Italians, the Portuguese, the Greeks, and the Cypriots, and the Romanians and quote, Kosovo. It's not even a proper country, but anyway, they needed them. So think about that. Now you got a big, serious conversation here. Iran fired back and hit all of those Gulf countries that were hosting U.S. bases. You didn't see much pushback, really. A few people complained about it, Western governments, and, oh, horror, Iran's hitting back indiscriminately. No, it wasn't indiscriminate, and we know it. They had a right within the laws of war to retaliate against the source of aggression, and the U.S. was using its bases in Saudi, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, was using their presence in all of those bases, and Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan, using all of those bases to mount attacks, an illegal war of aggression against Iran. So Iran's within its rights to retaliate. By the same token, listen closely, by the same token, Iran is within its rights to hit the U.S. bases in Italy, Germany, the UK, and Portugal. So at that point, Britain, Germany Italy, Greece, Cyprus have to admit that this was an illegal war of aggression launched by the US and Israel against Iran, who was negotiated in good faith, trying to find some way to appease the US empire, which is a waste of time, and the Israeli empire, the US Israeli empire, if you will, in the region. And so Europe is a party. There are belligerent European countries that host US bases. They're launching long range bombing runs, attacks, doing all the sort of coordination, the signals intelligence. It's all done out of the main hub is Germany. But all of these European countries, including the UK, Germany specifically, and Cyprus and Greece and Italy, that Iran could retaliate with if they had the range of intermediate range or long range intercontinental ballistic missile, they have a right to hit the source of aggression in those countries. Do the governments and the leadership in these countries in Europe realize what they have done? They've turned their populations, just like the Gulf Arab states, by becoming accessories to U.S. war crimes, have subjected their own populations to become targets in a war that people living in these countries have really nothing to do with, but their governments that feel they have to bend the knee to the United States and allow them to be used as a military lily pad for any war anywhere in the world, are drawing fire to their countries in Europe, potentially. Now, they could have done what Spain did, which is deny access to the U.S. to use Spain as a way station or as a destination to be involved to attack Iran. That's what the Spanish did. So the Spanish did the right thing. It's the only NATO member or EU country, one of the only ones that has a brain, that hasn't become completely brain dead and vassalized to the U.S. And this upset Trump so much, he's attacking Spain. Tariffs, trade embargoes, he's declaring them an enemy because Spain wouldn't support an illegal U.S. war. They're an enemy of America, according to Trump. Okay. But do you realize that this is just a question of technology? And are you confident in Europe that Iran doesn't already have that range? Are you confident? Because they would be within their rights under the laws of war, as they are in the Gulf, to strike European countries. Now, you want to avoid that. If you're a European country, if you're a British government or a German government or Portuguese or Greek or Cypriot or Romanian government, you'd want to avoid, or Kosovo, not even a real state again, but it's basically Kosovo is a glorified U.S. military base. That's the reason why they broke up Yugoslavia, because the United States wanted to put one of their largest military bases in Europe. They wanted to carve that out of a sort of fake state called Kosovo. Anyway, that's just academic at this point. But do you realize you have a choice? You could either not allow the U.S. to use you for this war, or you can just say, go ahead and use us, and we're just going to look the other way, like nothing's happening. But what happens when something happens? Who are you going to blame? Are you just going to go to war behind the U.S. and Israel and say, oh, we've been attacked. This outrage cannot stand. Rally the troops. Rule Britannia. I mean, I can't imagine the Murdoch tabloid press, how they would sell that. Instead of looking at the obvious, which was you had a chance to basically stop this early on, but instead they were complicit. The European countries were complicit. So they are parties to a war crime. And if there's retribution coming their way as a result of this from the Iranians, but it's not just retribution, it's trying to eliminate the source of the threat, which is what it's in their right to do that. So these are like legitimate questions that I think intelligent people should be asking. But then again, so there they are, key European bases. Look up on screen. Take notes. Involved in the Iran operations. Rammstein. Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Who knew Hitler would be proud? Known as the key hub for the C-17 shuttles operating between Europe and the Gulf. And then Israel's using their civilian airport as a military airport now, Ben Gurion Airport, for all the U.S. C-17s and refueling in Israel's Ben Gurion Airport right now. So Israel's using its civilian airport as a human shield. Okay? So NAS Sigonella in Italy, a critical base utilized for logistics and surveillance aircraft in the Mediterranean, and Suda Bay, Greece, used for naval and air support. And of course, Cyprus goes without saying. Cyprus is basically being used for all the link ups with NSA, GCHQ, Israeli intelligence, Israeli signals intelligence. Cyprus is the main Middle East hub for signal intelligence. Also, it's the escape valve for Israeli aircraft, or the president or the prime minister Netanyahu, when he needs to escape, he uses Cyprus as a sort of safe escape hatch. Okay, that's a European, an EU country, Cyprus. So deeply, deeply, deeply involved. So anyway, that's the layout, folks. So, looking at these guys, and so it doesn't look, it's not looking great. Okay. It's not looking great. And I'll add one more thing, and then I'll get down to the interesting bit, the daily shooter bit that you guys are all waiting for. What you have to understand is that the damage to the global economy and the U.S. economy by this ridiculous, disastrous war that has seen record U.S. military losses in terms of equipment and bases. Nothing even close. What you're seeing right here, the damage caused by this, is already baked in. If they signed a peace treaty tomorrow, the force of hyperinflation is already in motion, and you're going to suffer this through to 2027 if it ended today. But according to this president, it's not going to end today. The Israelis will not allow the U.S. to sign a peace treaty. In fact, the Israelis will do anything to nudge this president towards a war. Anything to discipline the president, to make sure that this White House is heading in the right direction. So that's a reality. That's a reality. They cannot resolve the futures market anymore because there's only so much oil and gas that's available. So you're not going to be able to suppress those future prices anymore. So the futures market will soon reflect the material reality of the actual supply available in the market. In other words, your gas in America is going up to $6, $7, potentially $8, $9, maybe higher dollars per gallon. And it's going to create inflationary force right across the entire economy on every single goods and services in America. And this is right across the Western world and the global economy as well. It's already happening in Southeast Asia. It's already happening. So it's only a question of time. So that will leave this president with only one option, which is a massive bailout, probably for the banks, and they'll have the banks buy U.S. treasuries and whatnot. They'll do another 2008 or COVID-style bailout and try to suppress inflation that way before the midterms. Wait and watch. It's coming. They're going to have to do it anyway. Even if it ended today. This is what a disaster this war has been. These people are talk to you like they know what they're doing, like they've thought this all out, and that they're on the winning side on this, and it's somehow going to all work out great. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. This is a failure on multiple fronts. And right here, you're seeing this guy will go down in history as the worst president in the history of the United States of America. There's no doubt about that. The entire history of the country, him and all the clowns that he has assembled around him, will go down as the worst administration in the history of the country, and the one that fast-tracked the collapse of the U.S. empire and the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. Everything that he did ended up accelerating the demise of the U.S. That's already a fact. There's no way it can be rescued. It can't. And even if they wanted to, they don't have the people with the competence to change the situation. They just don't. You've got grifters, charlatans, sort of ignoramuses, people with like suspect high school level educations like Steve Miller and other people, all sorts of opportunists that are orbiting around this, just basically getting fat, trying to carve up the fat of the calf while it's still there, because this party is going to be over very soon. I predict this president will be forced out of office by hook or crook. I don't know how that's going to happen. It could be some kind of a mental episode that just makes his presidency untenable, that his own people will have to get rid of him, take him out under health reasons, take him out of the White House and say, oh, because of health reasons, the president has had to step down temporarily and it'll become a permanent thing. Or there's going to be a military coup in the U.S. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, there's not a lot of options left. I don't think they're going to get the votes to impeach him, although they could be able to impeach him. Maybe the rhinos, the Republicans, will have to throw him under the bus. Even the warmongers will have to get rid, because this guy is such a train wreck that he's an existential threat to the United States as a country. I'm not exaggerating. The economic deprivation that's coming as a result of this guy's slavish adherence to the Israelis to do this war. And this is going to be very bad for the Israeli lobby in America. The time clock is ticking on their reign over American politics, and they will head for the exit eventually. They will become so unpopular because they're going down to the bottom. They're chained to Trump. That is a giant anvil, historically speaking, that is going to the bottom of the historic ocean. And the Israeli lobby is chained to him. And all of the surrogates, the Mark Levines of the world and all these other sort of blowhards, they're going down with Trump. So there's no good ending. There's no good ending. So the Israelis will do anything to nudge this president back towards war. And so that brings us, and again, we'll go into more detail about this in the Overdrive segment. So if you go to our archive at 21st Century Wire, we've been chronicling mass shootings and false flags, and we call this the Daily Shooter. Okay, if you go to the Daily Shooter files, put that in the search bar, the Daily Shooter files. Put that in, you'll get our archive on all of these. We've been covering these and analyzing these sort of unbelievable phenoms, political phenoms, for like over a decade, probably since 2012, 2011, you could say. And a lot of that's propaganda analysis, of course, but problem, reaction, solution. So that's the Daily Shooter. So what we saw at the White House press event, I mean, it's such a bailout, isn't it? And you see the scene here. Everybody's there. All the millionaires have assembled. They're all on their cell phones and tweeting about this. Oh my gosh, there's been a shooting. Well, not really. Not in the ballroom, of course. But Trump's White House Correspondents Association dinner with the press turns into a night of tears and terror. Okay, tears and terror. Really? Well, let's look at the traumatized president, if we must. Here's the traumatized president after the so-called shooter was apprehended. Here's Trump, basically turned it into a Dean Martin celebrity roast for like an hour. And the comedy skit on this, I don't know if they're going to, I mean, it's sort of like, because this is marketed as an attempt on the president's life, that a lot of people in the press, even Saturday Night Live, will be probably encouraged to not make fun of it because somehow that would be insensitive. So they use that Trump as the victim. But here's Trump and his team immediately after this so-called shooting. They basically turned it into a sort of public relations event. Watch.
We looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different.
The military have wanted the ballroom for 150 years. Like, what on earth is this guy talking about? Completely incoherent. Drone-proof. So we need a drone-proof ballroom in the White House. Like, what is this really about? Or is this about the private command bunker being constructed underneath the ballroom? Is that what this is about? A separate command center. What is this, a private center? Is it privatized? Is it separate from the normal? Because they do have lower levels under the White House. They do have a bunker under the White House. They do have a tunnel system in D.C. But is Trump constructing something else here that's not really going to be, that he doesn't envision that's going to be for use for everybody other than him or his, quote, his people? That's a question worth asking, is what's being built under the ballroom here. But he's turned this shooting into a type of a marketing event for his, what a lot of people are calling a pink elephant project. And he's making up all these stories, how the military wanted the ballroom for 150 years. It's just ridiculous. But that's just par for the course.
Because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
So why do we need levels of security? What's he talking about? No, he's saying he needs levels of security. He needs levels of security. There's a president that's starting wars left, right, and center all over the world, that's attacking people domestically, that is sending armed paramilitary Gestapo force known as ICE and executing Americans on the streets in broad daylight in Minneapolis multiple times. So he says, I need protection now. So he's doing all these illegal, unconstitutional things, attacking the American people, attacking innocent countries overseas, and he's crying, saying, I need more protection. That's kind of the narrative that you're seeing here, actually. Okay. So this scene is just ridiculous with the dinner suits. I mean, this is literally Dean Martin's celebrity roast. He's making cracking jokes up there. I mean, if you saw the whole press conference, if you can sit through that and stomach that, you're a better man than I am, because I couldn't handle it after. I tried for about a half hour and it was just too much. It's just ridiculous. It's such theater. And they're trying to create a crisis moment. It's very clear that that was the intent, okay, of this whole production. And let's bring the basics back up here on screen. So what else are we looking at? Oh, here's the Daily Shooter. We'll talk more about him in a minute during the Overdrive segment when we take a break. Shooter identified as 31-year-old school teacher Cole Allen. I am so shocked and appalled he doesn't have his middle name put in there, like Cole David Allen. You know, it's always got to be three names with these mass shooting events or these assassination, Daily Shooter type events. Cole Allen. So why not Cole Michael Allen or Cole Christopher Allen? I don't know. You need three names. Otherwise, it just doesn't work in the media. But anyway, he's from Torrance, Southern California. That's down by Orange County. which is, by the way, a conservative stronghold. I just point that out. Orange County, OC. Even though it's in California, it's probably the most MAGA place on the planet, probably. Suspect emerged from a, quote, makeshift room. Very interesting. A makeshift room. Near the entrance, where there was no security, next to the bar equipment storage area, according to the New York Post. So let's get this straight here. Just get the logistics straight. And I'll just finish this off. He was in that room, according to one witness. He grabbed the gun or guns out of his bag or something, a long gun, rifle, and it didn't look like a typical gun. Okay, that's interesting. So what happened here? Did he bring a gun through security? Because normally, if it's a presidential event, the security will be outside the building. So you can't even get inside the building unless you go through metal detector or something like that. There'd be like a perimeter or something. Or did he come into the building with a gun, and then the metal detectors and security barrier was further in the lobby before you get into the function rooms? If this was at the Hilton, I guess. Which is it? So it's either A, they didn't set up their security properly, or B, he was allowed to come in and, according to this witness, assembled his gun, put his gun together in front of the witness in this lobby reception area, and then proceeded to load the weapon in front of everybody and then fire off random shots before he made the sort of bull run towards the ballroom, at which point he was, of course, tackled by Secret Service and subdued and target neutralized. Which is it? It's just bizarre. Who is this guy? Okay. Who is this guy? So let's look at the actual scene here. And so we'll show you the moment that we're told the shots rang out here. We'll bring this up. This is, I'll comment on this, but watch. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but like, what's the point of having all of these special forces and TAC team outfits, and you can't even stop the so-called guy from coming in off the street and assembling a rifle in front of everybody and then loading it and then like firing shots off? Not even in the ballroom here. The shots didn't come close or near where they are. But what's interesting, let's look at this again. And notice how quickly they evacuated J.D. Vance. And then it took, in my count, 15, 20 seconds for them to actually get the president out. They quickly took Vance out, but then left Trump there. Now, is that because Trump can't get up and walk because he's got gout or whatever? He's got some problems physically or whatever. He's 80 years old. But I somehow it just seems odd to me. This is, watch this again. There's Vance. Quickly, there's it. He's gone. And then Trump, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10, 1,000, 11, 1,000, 12, 1,000, 13, 1,000, 14, 1,000, 15, 1,000, 16, 1,000, 17, 1,000, 18. So it's about, I missed a few seconds at the beginning. And then, of course, there's the special forces guys there, slightly overweight. I guess those are Secret Service. Lots of equipment, but what the hell are they there for if they can't even secure the building? What a waste of space these people are. But anyway, I found that to be interesting. See, J.D. Vance, quick, out. Got to take care of him, but leave the president there. Donald Trump's just like taking it in strides, like, oh, well, another shooter. So I guess Trump fell down there. He tripped or something or rather. I mean, how many people does it take? But anyway, there's just something weird and very strange about this whole scene and the way that the sort of theatrical production that was sort of tacked onto the back of all this, and then all the narratives that were pumped into the conversation afterwards. It's just weird, to say the least. But if only the weirdness stopped there. And of course, it didn't. And well, just as a side, and again, this is unconfirmed, but this kind of turned up online afterwards, and they're claiming here, just doing a zoom in on the shooter here, this Cole Allen, supposedly his name is, that he's wearing an IDF sweatshirt, Israeli Defense Forces. So this was apparently on his Instagram before his profile was removed. So this is another thing you see now with daily shooter events, as we call them, is that the social media accounts are quickly removed so the public can't see anything about the alleged assailant or shooter. So the Charlie Kirk story, which just it becomes increasingly improbable and weird. You saw this there, and plus with a host of others. So, is this true? Was that indeed on his Instagram profile? If it is, then obviously we have a massive story here. If this is potentially AI generated, or it looks pretty authentic, and how it's subtly hidden in this picture says a lot. So who is this guy, Cole Allen? Is he half Jewish? Did he serve in the IDF? Of course, that would change the whole conversation, right? If you're talking about, grooming somebody for something, who is his handler? What are we actually looking at here? The theatrics behind this, the political motivations behind this, who might be involved? Just saying. And, we'll talk more about that on the other side. But so that's, these are all like questions surrounding this, but if only the weirdness ended there. And of course it didn't. So minutes before the event, here's Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary herself. Basically, maybe this is just a coincidence, but it was just so weird. Listen to what she says here. And they're saying, what can you expect about this great event? It's before the event starts. It's all part of the media hype here. And here's Trump's actual press secretary describing what people can expect at this great event.
Is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I love it all. And you wrote most of it, you said.
I can't take credit. In true Donald Trump fashion, the man puts his pen to the paper himself. So it's a lot of his own work.
To rumble, is he?
Oh, we just can't wait. So shots will be fired, says Caroline Leavitt. So maybe it's just a coincidence, of course, but I mean, kind of poetic in a way. But I thought that was interesting, But, if only it ended there. If only it ended there. And so that's the first one, but it doesn't end there, unfortunately. It continues. Now, this is I think a Fox News correspondent who was on site, and her name is her name is Aisha something or rather, and so she's calling in as Fox is giving coverage on this, and they're asking her, what happened, what went on there, and she's going to give her. So she's on the live link right now from the Washington Hilton when I show you this clip. And what she's saying is Aisha Hassin, or Hassani, Aisha Hassani. Listen closely to what she says here. She was talking to, I believe, that woman you just saw there, I just played, saying shots are going to be fired, Caroline Leavitt. I think she was talking to her husband before the event, and he said something strange, which she's trying to relay here. And then Fox, realizing these damning comments, cuts her off mid-sentence. You can be the judge for yourself, but listen closely. to this. I find this to be quite interesting, but here it is.
Quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me, and right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened, and then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV, you do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some.
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time. I did want to add this. While we had a moment, I was just reading.
So totally normal, this sometimes happens with our correspondents. We lose. So overwhelming cell service in Washington, D.C. I mean, there must have been 100 or so or a couple hundred people on their phones. Overwhelmed the cellular service. I mean, can you believe that? So she said it right there. She was talking to Caroline Levitt's husband, and that's a Fox News contributor or, on the ground beat reporter or whatnot, Aisha Hasni. And she said, you got to be careful. She's look around this room and blah, blah, blah. So what exactly was she going to say there? We'll never know. And she will either disappear from Fox, or she will never comment on this ever again, or it'll be interesting to see what her workaround story is for this, because she was just cut off on air by her own colleague. I mean, that's like pretty clear. And we'll just listen to that one more time, and just for thoroughness, listen again.
Tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me, and right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened, and then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV, you do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some.
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time. I did want to add this.
Happens all the time. Come on. Anyway, make of it what you will. We're just basically showing things that are out there. And obviously, everything I've shown you has caused media storms already. Social media is on fire right now. By the time while this program is happening now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So, we're just basically here to, share with interesting things that are being done and said here around this event. So that's what we're doing. Read into it what you may. I've got a few other, interesting and choice things to say. We're going to break and join our teammates in a minute. Probably a shorter Overdrive segment than normal because we've gone overtime here, but we didn't expect that there was going to be a Daily Shooter event last night. And we're going to have a very interesting conversation. But as a feel-good story, just to prove to you that we're not all about negative stories and that we do have positive stories as well. We have an uplifting clip, which we're going to play. I think it's going to make everybody feel a lot better. And this should put a smile on your face, whoever you are. You'll agree that this is definitely a heartening and heartwarming video clip from an old dear member of the political community here.
In a fight, I need your help. I hate to say this, but I've been outraged twice by Democrats. Please go to lindseygraham.com and help me if you can. I've been with President Trump at every step. I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee when we did Kavanaugh. You remember that. I've been there with him. I think he's been a great president. He makes us safer. He makes us more prosperous. The Democrats have money. I don't know where they're getting all this money, but I need your help. lindseygraham.com. Please help me if you can and help my teammates. When my primary is over, I'm going to help the whole team. But we're going to get this war right. Structurally, Iran has been decimated. When it comes to fighting Democrats, we need to up our game.
We're going to get this war right. We promise. He's admitting that the war is a disaster and his support base has collapsed in South Carolina. It is wonderful to see the sheer terror on this man's face at the fact that he might be losing his grift, which is this job he's been able to hold down for a couple of decades, where he's done absolutely nothing but show for war, death, and destruction around the world, and do so on the U.S. taxpayers' dime, basically, subsidizing his lifestyle, his trips to Disneyland. I mean, literally, this guy goes to Disney World and hangs out at Disney World by himself, which is strange. But anyway, he is terrified. That is a look of terror right there on Lindsey Graham's face. He's watching it all slip away. So I think, whoever's running against him, whether it's in a Republican primary or in the general election in November, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or a Green or whatever, you should be backing the candidate that's running against this man, against Lindsey Graham. That's who you need to be backing. Okay. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a head of lettuce for all we care. It could be Mickey Mouse himself. We need to donate to those campaigns and back them, because this guy needs to be sent to early retirement and in Tel Aviv. They'll probably gift him maybe a beachside apartment in Tel Aviv where he can be there for all the colorful festivities they have in the month of June and July there in Tel Aviv, on the beach there, the parades and all that. That's where Lindsey Graham needs to be, not in the U.S. government. So anyway, some people might take pleasure in watching him panic and sweat and having to go on TV to beg for money. I mean, this is what these swamp creatures are like. That's all they care about. That's all they've ever cared about, is the next election cycle. That's the only thing that gets them interested in anything. And you can see he's prioritizing here, and he admitted the war is a disaster, which I find hilarious. We're going to get this war right. We're going to get this war right. Honestly, it is something else. Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes, and thank you for joining us. And again, like and subscribe this show, The Sunday Wire and 21st Century Wire, on Rumble, on YouTube, or wherever you're listening to us. Hit the notification bell on X as well, at 21 Wire. If you're watching, we really appreciate it. We need all the help we can get. We're going to break now, but an awesome track coming up, which we are promoting right now. It's called Eyes Wide Open by the Real Anthem Band. And, I'm talking to this band just yesterday, and they're sort of previewing a couple of their new tracks that they've got coming out. I mean, this is a really serious project, and the people behind it, and their lead singer, Sean specifically, they're doing incredible work, and they're creating all their own video and graphical material as well. But the music is incredible. He's got some really good write-ups, mainstream write-ups, for their these new tracks they've released, which we've Heaven Come Down, Eyes Wide Open. So it's pretty incredible. So we're going to continue. So if you like this track, this band, there's a link in the show description to Bandcamp. Go there and get the track. Pay the $1 or whatever it is, $1.50 or whatever. I'm not sure how much the track is. It's not a lot of money. And then follow them on that Bandcamp link. So support. These are independent artists. These are friends of the show. So some of the best musical artists out there and friends of this show, they need your support. Hit that link, get the track, and follow them on that independent media platform, Bandcamp, which is for artists and for independent artists. So they get everything people do in terms of purchasing tracks and whatnot, but just help this one go up the charts because I think this is a banger. We'll see you guys in a few minutes with our teammates on the other side. I'm Patrick Henningsen. You're listening and watching the Sunday Wire here at 21st Century Wire and the AlternateCurrentRadio.com. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Cover in the dark, secret wars are waged, quiet army sabotage, bloody tension remains, global faces of a crime, the sleight of hand betrays. Something slept inside their hearts as explosions rage. The system breaks as truth increases. The grip on us and the world order ceases. Behind the mask, it's falling to pieces. What comes next? Have they lost all reason? Paper empires catch a spark as vultures come to prey. Hollow kings are losing ground. Shadows of decay. Walls begin to show a crack as ancient echoes fade. Scales shall fall from blinded eyes, renewing all our faith. The system breaks as truth increases. The grip on us and the world order ceases. Behind the mask, it's falling to pieces. What comes next? Have they lost all reason? Eyes open wide. There's no disguise. Eyes open wide. The system breaks as truth increases. The grip on us and the world order ceases. Behind the mask, it's falling to pieces. What comes next? Have they lost all reason? The system breaks as truth increases. The grip on us and the world order ceases. Behind the mask, it's falling to pieces. What comes next? Have they lost all reason?
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sunday Wire. This episode 592 of this weekly omnibus news analysis radio and TV program. We're on the live stream on X, on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Facebook Live, and also after the program on the audio streams. Will be a few hours after the upload comes for iTunes, as well as Spotify and all of the Stitcher and all the other podcasting platforms on the audio stream, so you can catch us there if you like to listen to the program. That's one way you can do it. You can also get to our audio down on the show page as well after the show at 21stcenturywire.com. You'll see it there with the widget that's installed there. But we're gonna bring our teammates up onto the stage just in a moment. Again, I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. Like and subscribe this channel on YouTube, this episode as well. Appreciate you guys. We had a huge engagement last week in terms of comments during the show. We've got we're on track to beat that this week. We've already got 2,000 comments on the live stream. You guys, awesome. We're going to feature some of those comments during the segment here when we're joined by our teammates. And then just on the aggregate, we had almost record numbers on the aggregate live stream last week, over 4,000 on the live stream last week. So that was pretty good, really good show in terms of our audience. And again, appreciate the energy, appreciate the activity, and all the wit and clever comments that we're getting from our increasingly intelligent audience here at the Sunday Wire. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on our colleagues one by one onto the screen. Bryan McClain, also known as Hesher, is joining us right now from the studios in Austin, Texas. Great to have you with us, Hesher. And I thought we were just covering the war.
So much for that.
It's not what we said last week. We're hoping for a boring week, right?
We almost thought we were going to have one, right? Just until the last minute there.
But somehow the two merged together. These two narratives come together, and amazingly, they always do. Adam Clark, also known as Ruckus here, also sporting the Trump marionette. According to Alan Dershowitz, you don't want to use that term, pulling the strings. That's an anti-Semitic trope, according to Alan Dershowitz. He fought with Piers Morgan over that, by the way.
He really wouldn't like the image I threw together. There's the whole picture. Of course, I took one half. I gave the other half to Hesher today so we could split it. But yes, I saw your theme for the show today, and I was immediately inspired to do the war as a theater kind of image today.
I love this image, Ruckus. This is awesome.
You like it? I have an alternative too. I'll send them both to you, but here's the alternative one I didn't use. But I do like the one I picked for today.
It's missing something though. I noticed the flags in the back. I only see an American flag, but there's the other one's missing.
Well, yeah, I knew just by what you had just mentioned, just the fact that there's a hand up above. Like, I know it's in shadows, but
yes.
If we were to shine a light on that hand, I bet you all know whose hand that is.
That's again, Alan Dershowitz would say that hand is an anti-Semitic hand, or just to even suggest that there's someone, quote, pulling the strings. So this they're calling it a trope. I want to bring Basil Valentine also onto the stage, joining us. Basil, I don't know if you saw that Alan Dershowitz exchange with Piers Morgan, but both Joe Kent and Piers Morgan said pulling the strings, and were both attacked by Dershowitz during the segment. He was on there with Morgan and Joe Kent. And apparently Alan Dershowitz said, you can't say pulling the strings because that's a anti-Semitic trope. Apparently. I didn't know that. I didn't know you can't, because I thought that was from Pinocchio, wasn't it? Pulling the strings.
Well, I think he said that Piers was allowed to say that Trump was influenced or pressure. That was it. He said that Morgan was allowed to say that Israel had pressured Trump to go into the war, but not that they were pulling the strings, because that's an anti-Semitic trope, even if it's true. But, truth and so-called anti-Semitism increasingly, rub up against each other, don't they? I mean, I don't know if you saw Caitlin Johnston posted this morning a breakdown of the anti-Semitism training handbook produced down under, which, very, very clearly sets out that basically any meaningful criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism. Simple as that. It fully embraces the IHRA definition. And,
We'll get on to that. We'll get on to that.
We can get on to that, yeah. But I just saw this before we go. Dana White, he enjoyed the White House dinner shooting. He said it was awesome.
Okay.
The UFC president thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. But, surely violence begets violence. What gets me about this, I'm going to just say this while I get the chance, is it's perfectly fine for the US administration to murder anyone it likes in conjunction with Israel. Khamenei, we almost forget now, the supreme leader of Iran was murdered. Soleimani, all sorts of people, any Hamas leader, obviously is fair game. But somebody takes a pot shot at this criminal, and it's as if the world is going to end. Violence begets violence. But as we know, there's one rule for one crowd and one for another.
Well, we'll talk about the pot shots and the shots. Shots will be fired tonight, says Carolyn Levitt before the event, which was strange. He didn't really actually get any pot shots on the president, it turns out. And I want to start with Hesher. I have dubbed this as a daily shooter event. And I know this is premature. I don't have all the facts, I admit. I don't have all of the details. But what I do see, and my instincts tell me, Hesher, that, and again, we've introduced people to the archive there at 21st Century Wire. That's the Daily Shooter Files at 21 Wire. Hesher, your assessment of what we just saw last night at the White House Press Correspondents Association dinner at the Washington, D.C. Hilton. General thoughts, observations, accusations, perhaps?
Looked ridiculous. Put more effort into it, you guys. If you're going to stage manage daily shooter events like this and try to put them in a high profile place like that, I'm sorry. This is probably not what it's going to look like, what we see right here. This looks more like Jack Torrance's political nightmare from The Shining or something like that. This is no, I'm not buying it, Patrick, and I'm not going to mince words here. I'm not going to sit here and use the word allegedly and all this stuff this time around. I'm going to go straight into opinion mode here. So taking off my journalist hat and putting my propaganda analyst tea leaf reader hat and say this was ridiculous. This was absolutely ridiculous. Even more ridiculous than Butler. At least they had a bigger budget for the Butler scam. This was stupid. And everything that we have access to going around online, most of it I can't even care about that much because I can see a media campaign attached to it. And if there's a media campaign attached to it, you've seen the batches of tweets that all read the same thing, like 24 of them. Oh, this is why we need the ballroom, right? Okay, if that's not a coordinated social media campaign exactly like Ashley St. Clair described recently, then, I got a bridge to sell you. No, this is crap. This is total. It's not even worth doing an immediate analysis of it. I mean, look how many years we had to wait to get vindication of our analysis on what happened in Charlottesville. Here we are. What was that? 2015 or something? 2026.
Yeah.
And it turns out we were right with our on-the-spot analysis of that, saying, hey, this is being faked. This is being funded by someone. This is being stage managed. Why are all the photographers and cameramen in the right place at the right time? All these Getty images being taken, boom, in real time, perfect HD. Get out of here with this crap. The American public is sick of the psyops. So just quit it. Stop it. I'll do an Erica Kirk. Stop it. Just stop.
She was there. Erica Kirk was at the event. I'll see if I can find the tweet. The MAGA accounts were saying, pray for Erica Kirk's safety as they were escorting her out of the building. So, of course, pray for Erica and the grieving widow. Hesher, just a few things to point out in terms of, the shooter himself is from the OC. I thought that was interesting. And Cole Allen, and again, only 2 names, which I find surprising because normally it's 3 names. If it is a proper lone gunman, he will have 3 names. It'll be Cole Michael Allen or Cole Darius Allen or something like that. So anyway, just got Cole Allen. That means he could actually be enlisted. Who knows? But, the whole story from the eyewitnesses that on Fox and so forth, he assembled the gun in the lobby. Just quickly, Hesher, on the logistical point of view, that means that he smuggled a rifle through the metal detector, or because I don't have the layout of the lobby, or did they not have security on the perimeter, which I find to be unusual for a presidential event. Normally the security would be outside. There would be a barrier outside the venue, right?
Yeah.
And so that didn't happen here. So it seems to me like something just doesn't add up with this whole story.
Yeah. First off, if gun control worked and everything was above board in this story, this wouldn't have happened, right? We're talking DC here, right? The hotel was in DC.
Yep.
Am I correct
Hilton.
on this?
DC Hilton. Yep.
Major gun control area. Most people, 99, nobody there is carrying legally unless they're, a cop or a security guard or something like that. So just at a fundamental level, I have a hard time with this. But that's a whole nother discussion. Then there's the security cordon, right? If the president or people like, the presidential press corps, senators, this kind of thing are going to be at a public location like that, it's right there in DC. They know dang well how to cordon that off, how to surveil it, how to, make it safe, how to have the metal detectors in place. None of this makes sense. And then what do you mean? Like, who's saying what's all this crap about people going to places to do violence and assembling and disassembling their weapons? That is the most retarded, stupid thing I've ever heard. Like, that's Hollywood imprinting. Like, that's like people watching spy movies and assassin movies and a guy with a cool case taking it out and putting it together right before he does his
in
business.
front of everybody.
Right. But the people that they give us as antagonists in these situations, and yes, I'm using a word that you would find more in like novels and stuff. The antagonist in these narratives are almost never people that have firearms experience or anything like that. Or if they do, it's just a narrative that we're told about. Point is, they're not like a, spy movie assassin or something like that who's made a career out of this and has practiced over and over again, disassembling and reassembling their weapon before and after using it or after using it. I mean, sure, maybe there's a case where that might happen. I'm sure there have been some idiots who have done crimes and based, the way they move off what they see in Hollywood. But like for the government to be giving us this narrative again of, oh yeah, this guy broke his weapon. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe it's part of the stage management of the plot, but I just don't buy that stuff. And I would need more proof. And guess what? Guess who the burden of proof is upon? It ain't me. So, all I can do is speculate and say that sounds like a totally lame narrative.
So the other thing, like a very similar event recently, he came with a quote long gun, as well as handguns and a series of knives. So it's like this whole cacophony of weaponry in a duffel bag. Okay, that was just like one of the. I think you remember one of the last events, high-profile events like this, was also somebody that came with all knives and various things. I mean, what is this like? Is it what do you call it? I forgot that video game, Street Fighter or whatever. You just have to have all your Mortal Kombat. You got to have your weapons with you, whatever. But I saw that too, and that just seemed to me very suspect. It's at the very least very unprofessional. If you're a professional that does soldiering or God forbid some kind of wet work we don't know about, you're not rolling around like that. You're not rolling around with an orgy of evidence sitting in your truck as though you're Michael Douglas in the movie Falling Down or something, and you picked up this big duffel bag from a gang of thugs that you scared. I mean, it's
it's just unlikely. Someone who's a professional, yeah, they might have a blade on them. They might have a whole kit on them. This guy didn't. He looks completely, I'm not fully au fait on his background yet, but from what I know, there's a JPL background, which is a whole nother weird thing. Like I don't know, maybe he's former military and I didn't notice yet.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, Rotten Tomatoes, you're giving the script low rating, 10%.
All thumbs down.
Ruckus, what do you make of this one? Is there any anomalies that have popped out or questions that are red flags that you can see on this?
Yes, all of them. Too many of them, actually. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before, which leads me to suspect maybe this one was organic. I know that sounds crazy, but it's missing a lot of the early hallmarks that are like dead giveaways. And then instead what we're seeing are some of those things that we would normally expect being put in retroactively. If we were to take the story of the witness, for instance, saying that he pulled out this thing and assembled it and loaded it and it didn't look like a regular gun, mix that with the fact that now there's some videos of this guy showing up there from back in 2017 where he seems to be a tinkerer, inventor, where he was creating some sort of brake stop out of PVC pipes for a wheelchair. So, if you were to believe that, okay, so the guy, maybe he invented or created something, okay, but again, that's unusual, and we don't see that in these events. And then the duffel bag, that didn't show up into the story until more information is coming out now. Neither did anyone mention a manifesto, which is now mysteriously, oh, look, a manifesto, how convenient. A lot of this just makes zero sense. You pointed out already, he's missing a middle name. That's very strange. But the two things that stand out to me more than anything, and yes, of course, Carolyn Levitt's comment is suspicious, but they say these types of things anyway. So I think there was no there, just a coincidence. What was not a coincidence was the way the Fox News handled the cutoff of the lady on the phone. Mm-hmm. That, what they intentionally cut her off. And I'll tell you how. I know this. You can watch any Fox News or any media when somebody has a connection issue. If it was just, oh, shoot, we lost them. They're just like, oh, we lost them. Not sure what happened there. The guy had a full explanation for why the call was just lost.
Yeah.
That is incredibly unusual. Spidey sense was tingling. The other thing that, like you pointed out, and I'm like, wow, more people should be noticing this. Why did they remove J.D. Vance in an effing hurry? Mm-hmm. What's up with that? Makes you wonder. And then also, just so you know, the early reports anyways, I don't know how it's changed by now. They'll say, oh, yes, it was an intended attempt on Donald Trump's life or whatever. They said that the guy was just, he went there with the intent to target certain officials inside. So it seems like he had a plan for certain people inside the administration. And it seemed to me from the early reporting that it wasn't necessarily Trump. So, I mean, you really never know where this could go. What if he's some sort of Looney Tunes guy that wants to take out somebody inside of the Trump administration who doesn't agree with Trump? You see what I mean? So there's so many different bizarre things that we have to wait and see on this one. But man, how convenient that he was ready to go with a pitch for the ballroom, which, as you pointed out, they've already been laying this story about how it's really not about the ballroom. It's really about this underground secure bunker that they want to build. And I'm sure that's what he meant by the military wanting the ballroom. He didn't mean the ballroom. He meant the secure separate bunker thing.
Yeah. And a privatized command structure. That's my reading of that with Trump is some kind of an anti-coup type of facility for the end of his term. Who knows? But here's J.D. Vance being whisked away. I mean, boom, immediately Vance is out, and I'm just waiting another 10, 15, 20 seconds.
Well, he is a little more spry than Donald. I mean,
Donald did a Biden there. He did a face plant. He's got 3-4 guys holding him up, and then he face plants as well. I don't know how that works, but he is a big guy. He's about 6'3", probably about like 250 pounds or whatever he is. And then all the guys in the tack gear. And I'm like, guys, what's all this special forces, Secret Service? Do you remember in the old days where they wear black suits and they're quite nondescript and with earpieces? Now they're basically a bunch of, ICE guys with knee pads and all these like camera helmets and whatnot. And they can't keep the guy out of the lobby. It's weird. The whole thing. And so what's all the money?
Trump pose in front of a flag too after the thing? Never mind.
Oh, did he? I'm surprised. Yeah,
I'm curious why he wouldn't do that. I'm
fight,
like,
fight,
isn't that
fight.
what you do? Yeah,
yeah. There would be a fight moment. There, like where was but they had the show of force press conference afterwards, talking up the ballroom, which it's almost like, oh, we had a little shooting here, and our law enforcement, we rebuilt the FBI. We rebuilt. It was basically Dean Martin's celebrity roast for like an hour, taking questions, and I couldn't watch it after a while. It was just too much. But anyway, Basil, what do you make of all this palaver? I mean, do you think this was an organic assassination attempt on the president here? The timing of it, political timing, etc., motivations. What are you looking at here?
I'm looking at a report in The Independent, which, first of all, does give him a middle name, Cole Thomas Allen.
Ooh, I like it. Cole Thomas Allen.
3 first names. Cool.
That's good. Cole Thomas Allen. Excellent.
And he looks like a highly unlikely candidate for this kind of thing. He's a 31-year-old school teacher with an additional interest in developing computer games. He's a graduate, the 2017 graduate of the California Institute of Technology. In 2019, he registered the domain name Boredom, Bohrdom, for a game he created and released on Steam. He describes it as a skill-based, non-violent, asymmetrical fighting game, loosely derived from a chemistry model that is itself loosely based on reality. Only last year, he attained a master's degree in computer science from Cal State University at Dominguez Hills. While a student at Caltech, he was a member of the school's Christian Fellowship and the NERF Club, NERF, I don't know what that is. He was featured in a 2017 photo posted by the school on Facebook following his graduation. In that photo, he's holding a picture of himself as a child with a stuffed rabbit. In December of 2024, a Facebook post from private tutoring service C2 Education named him as Teacher of the Month. And his LinkedIn page describes himself as a mechanical engineer and computer scientist by degree, independent game developer by experience, teacher by birth, and lists as his causes on that profile science and technology. He previously worked as a mechanical engineer for UK Controls in South Pasadena and as a teaching assistant at Caltech. And in 2016, he competed in a robotics competition at the school. So, I mean, search me. Is he a Manchurian candidate? Has somebody got to him and turned him into a mind-controlled slave or something? But that background would not appear to suggest lunatic, quite the contrary. He seems very bright and motivated in his particular field. This so-called manifesto he published is described as being anti-Trump and anti-Christian. And he sent it to members of his family prior to the shooting. It would appear that he lives in California, and he refers to himself as the friendly federal assassin and cold force. Turning the other cheek is for when you yourself are oppressed. I'm not the person raped in a detention camp. I'm not the fisherman executed without trial, he allegedly wrote. I'm not a school kid blown up or a child starved or a teenage girl abused by the many criminals in this administration. Turning the other cheek when someone else is oppressed is not Christian behavior. It is complicity in the oppressor's crimes. He said that he was targeting a range of targets in the administration that did not include Kash Patel. Authorities were alerted to the manifesto by the suspect's brother, apparently, who lives in New London, Connecticut. So, the plot thickens, so to speak. Is he there to denigrate those causes that he mentions in the manifesto so that speaking up on behalf of starving children or the Epstein victims is associated with low nut violence, and therefore we have to clamp down on speaking out against administration policies because it emboldens people like this chap, like Cole, or is he a 100% genuine fellow who's just gone off the rails and taken matters into his own hands, or Manchurian candidate. At this point, I wouldn't like to say, but that background, and I mean, he got a master's only last year. That's highly unusual for somebody being put up for this kind of thing.
So there's a manifesto. Was that recently posted, or
just before he sent it to family members just before he went to Washington?
Interesting. Okay, so we have the manifesto. Check.
No, we don't actually have it yet. What we have,
no, we're hearing secondhand reports of it.
Yeah,
very good.
What
very
we have is White House officials and law enforcement officials telling CBS News and other outlets that
what he said.
There were notes sent to the family.
And we know that CBS is now 100% a Zionist propaganda outfit. So, I mean, he's still alive as far as we know.
He's alive. He's being charged. Yeah.
They didn't fill his head with lead, which is, was a convenient way of silencing the lone nut. And then you can pin what you like on him. Now, a neighbor of his told the Los Angeles Times, "We see them every day and we just say hi and they're very nice. They're peaceful people. They don't make any noise. And when they see you, they say hi." Another neighbor said the residents had only moved into the home 6 months previously. Lots of retired LAPD around here. We were told it's super safe. Neighbor Jeff Smith told the New York Post he felt as though Allen was on the spectrum. Local media reported a large law enforcement response at his home in Torrance, believed to be associated with him. At one point, residents of the home could be seen talking with officers. So there we go. The suspect has been described as very intelligent, on the nicer, quieter side.
Yeah, so he kept neighbors. He kept himself to himself. This classic lone gunman interview, the neighbor media spot. He kept himself to himself. Seemed like a nice guy. And so Hesher, interesting. It will be interesting to see. Trump said, "We're going through his apartment now, and we're in his apartment, and I'm waiting for the media to be ransacking his apartment like they did after San Bernardino and the other one. I think it was the New Orleans Mardi Gras shooting as well. I think that was at New Year's Eve 2025 or 2024 New Year's Eve. So we see some of these daily shooter attributes here. Now I'm going to point out something that both Basil and Ruckus alluded to here, but Basil's talking about Caltech. Caltech is the smartest of the smartest in California. I mean, that's not an easy university to get. It's as selective as Stanford. Okay, so he's not stupid. Nerf Club, Basil. Nerf Club is soft toys, furry rabbits. Then we're getting into furries. That'll be interesting. But the point being here is that if someone's half intelligent, they know that walking into the DC Hilton and assembling a gun and firing off randomly with no chance of hitting the president or anybody is you're going to end up in prison for the rest of your life or dead. That's not really a mark of intelligence. That means that either you've lost your mind, you're on SSRI meds, or you're being handled, or you're part of an operation. So it just seems like anybody with like who could even tie their shoe would know that was probably going to end badly for you. But that is the exact same MO of so many of these daily shooter events. Hesher, what do you think?
Yeah, the antagonist here has a very unlikely story. We've got unlikely logistics. We've got an unlikely narrative, and if all these things were above board, like you said, a flip of some sort got switched because a person does not attend Caltech. A person does not develop and sell independent video games themselves. A person doesn't have a job or be associated through contracts with a place like JPL and then just throw all of that away. You don't work. Anyone out there who even has a bachelor's degree, a community college degree, a master's degree, think back to what your life was like and what your headspace was like when you were doing that degree, when you were building that business or when you were developing that game. Think about how all of your energy and time and money went into that and how many sacrifices you made. at the end of that process or in the middle of that process? Or are you going to be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm taking my falling down duffel bag and I'm going to walk into the White House press corps conference dinner roast and just pretend it's Grand Theft Auto and kiss my life goodbye. Like, who does that? Like, okay, yes, a crazy person would be the person to go into a room and do this. But is that person really, like, I don't know. It's possible.
Well,
I guess we're all supposed to believe it's possible, of course.
I mean, there are highly intelligent psychopaths. There was the Unabomber. You know, this would be sort of the closest to the Unabomber, wouldn't it, in terms of the profile of the perpetrator, if indeed it's 100% genuine that this. But
the Unabomber was linked to intelligence, by the way.
Right. Well,
you know, that's a very shady story if you've looked into the Kaczynski operation.
Sure.
But,
right. When you peel the narrative, or when you compare the original narrative to the facts, you know, posthumously or, you know, in the rear view mirror, the main narrative doesn't match up almost every single time with something that's this big.
So guys, look at this comment. And, I know this might sound trite, but it's actually quite relevant. It said the U.S. has degenerated into one giant Jerry Springer show, complete with trailer trash type population serving as the audience. If you just step back and just look at the optics of this generally, all of these ridiculous shooting events, it is kind of bad television. And how come this doesn't happen anywhere else in the world? And plus the spectacle that we wrap it in, and how it's almost like a media ritual and this is kind of what we've been reporting and analyzing with the Daily Shooter analysis over the last sort of 12 years or, 13 years or whatever. But he's got kind of a point here. It's like we settle for this narrative. The whole thing is just routine. It's, to me, bizarre.
Interestingly, he's only been charged with the following 2 counts: use of a firearm during a crime of violence and assault on a federal officer with a dangerous weapon. If convicted of both counts, he faces up to 15 years in prison, of which he'll probably serve no more than half. So for all the hullabaloo, he could be out in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I want to see the ballistics on this. And was the gun made of Lego? Chris Morrell, 60s, thinks he's joking, but is he really joking here at this point? Oh, by the way, should have stayed in LA and done the Scientology furry run. That was a great story, by the way, the Scientology furry run. We're not going to cover that today, but that was incredible. But so guys, considering the theater of this, I have to play this video clip, which you guys have all seen. But we're going to have to play this because we're going to have to talk about this. What kind of theatrical performances are we really looking at here? And that's the kind of question we need to ask ourselves. And so I'm going to play this clip from 60 Minutes. This was an interview, and we'll play this right now. And we'll play this in just let me bring this up on screen. So, and then people just to remind people here of what we're dealing with.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. And the world is our stage.
Right, guys. 60 Minutes Mossad interview. We are the global production company, bragging on U.S. mainstream national television. So what's to say that what we're watching here is not a staged production from this Israeli intelligence person who's basically telling you that up front? And it's a legitimate question, legitimate line of inquiry. What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
I think a lot of times we as people trying to understand stories like this, we get lost in the sauce, we get lost in the details, we get lost in, what about this, what about that, and I enjoy that part. I like being lost in those things. I don't enjoy it as much as I would enjoy an honest media and a government that doesn't do psychological operations, violent psychological operations on its own population, but we don't have that. So I have to enjoy, wandering around in these bewildering woods. But ultimately, we need to remember that it really doesn't matter if this guy was a Manchurian candidate, an AI creation, a smart guy who just snapped because of the weight of the political environment, and the social environment, or, a straight up like intelligence operative, a foreign intelligence operative, right? Like all those things we can jam, various shapes, pegs into holes that look like they might fit. But ultimately, what we need to remember at this point is that the narrative is what is being stage managed. And that is all we're going to get in the history books every time this happens. A managed narrative. And that's what we'll all live with. A managed narrative with a bunch of intentional question marks dropped around it just to keep us all in that, bewilderment forest of facts and figures and potential facts and potential holes.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the antagonist doesn't matter anymore. It could be anything. It could be Casper the Ghost. The narrative is what matters. And the burden of proof is not on us, the internet sleuths and journalists. It's on those that are doing legislation, doing newscasts and that kind of stuff. So it's just an unfortunate situation.
The fallout from this would usually be a sympathy vote for Trump. So, his ratings are the lowest they've been. They're absolutely in the toilet. So normally you would expect that when a president's life is threatened like this, as was the case, I think, in the two shootings, one of which is unraveling fast, isn't it, Butler? In the run-up to the presidential election, Trump gets a boost. So, natural sympathy, somebody's threatened our president, so therefore he might be appalling, but I'm, swinging back in that direction, He picks up a few points in the polls. Then, of course, any cause that is espoused by the shooter is demonized. So there's that. So there's a sympathy vote for Trump, and then anything that the shooter claims to be supporting is associated with violence. And then, of course, there's heightened security as well. More money must be spent protecting the oligarchy, more the ring of steel, around the president. Whatever was being done before obviously wasn't adequate. So those are the three sort of takeaways when Hesher says the narrative that comes out of it afterwards are that we can't, even more precautions must be taken to prevent any member of the general public ever getting anywhere near any elected official, right? Anything that this bloke said is dangerous. Anything in this manifesto is dangerous, And by the way, Donald, even though you're a dangerous lunatic, threatening genocide and possibly the use of nuclear weapons, we feel for you. That's the outtake, isn't it?
Sure, yeah. Joe Cox, that strange Southern Poverty Law Center linked killing in the UK. Heightened security around MPs, no more surgeries, what they call surgeries, where MPs come to the community and do consultations face-to-face with their constituents. That's all becomes a security risk after that high-profile, unlikely shooting phenomenon event. Linked to the Southern Poverty Law Center, of all places, by the way. It's like, how's the UK high-profile shooting linked to the Southern Poverty Law Center? I mean, just please. But anyway, nothing to see here. Just move along. So yeah, Basil's correct to point that out. That's also one of the takeaways, is that politicians are under threat from the general public, and we need more security, and that costs more money. And yeah, you guys are going to pay for that.
That's
so
right.
So there.
That's right.
Don't
and that the public can't be trusted, basically, But it sort of elevates the oligarchy to an entrenched position, as very much above the rest of us, ordinary people. Even look, harmless school teachers from Torrance with master's degrees are potentially dangerous. And that means you are potentially dangerous. And so you have to be controlled and contained and your opinions monitored, because you might turn up one day with a bag full of guns and knives and threaten people.
Right. And wasn't it just last week Trump extended the FISA warrantless spying act that people were a little bit upset about, and he said, "Oh, we need that," and he
campaigned against it.
Yeah,
he said, "Well, we're not going to have that in transparency," and so he's extending that Obama FISA spy on Americans without a warrant, basically.
Yeah,
right?
The 701 and the 101, I believe, are re-extended, which means overseas and at home. And this is the kind of thing that would underscore, maybe some support for that. Trump himself even said on his Trump's Truth Social that he's willing to give up his rights as an American to support the military.
He said that.
The president, okay. I mean, at least usually they kind of pretend that they understand that, this is supposed to be a constitutional republic. But this one's like, you know what? If it helps our military, I'm willing to just give up all my rights. How about you guys? Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Don't you think that statement alone by Trump is kind of proof that he's not a conservative?
Oh, yeah.
There's no way, if you even like a small c, you can't make a statement like that. That kind of disqualifies you as a conservative. So he's not a conservative. Trump is a kind of statist, he's a liberal, atheist, authoritarian, basically, who is anti-constitutional. And he, his Minneapolis comments about gun owners and the Second Amendment should have been red flags to anybody left wearing a stupid red hat at that point. But the compromises that his base, whoever's left supporting him, I don't know who's left, but the compromises they're having to do to still support this guy that is clearly LARPing on the right as a conservative. Trump is a Maoist. I'm going to upset the communists when I say that. So I'll say, okay, no, he's Pol Pot. I literally get attacked by some communists for saying that he's Pol Pot, but he is a kind of year zero Pol Potist. He's saying, oh, forget about everything. We don't need any precedent law, international law, diplomacy. I'm here. History starts now, right?
Iconoclast is the word you're looking for, Patrick.
Thank you, Basil. Iconoclast. Yeah. Well, a type of iconoclast, but he doesn't feel he needs even to acknowledge anything previously.
That's right. Body
of work, law, intellectual, scholarly work, it doesn't apply to him. And that's what J.D. Vance is saying.
In the Ginger Caligula.
Vance said, with this president, past presidents just weren't as intelligent. All those wars we got in with because past presidents were stupid, but not like President Trump. We were so lucky to have such an intelligent president. I mean, it's literally the Dear Leader script, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I mean, it's the vanity that's absolutely off the charts. And that's essentially what's dictating American foreign policy. Blackmail, vanity, and bribery. Trump has been bribed. There's every chance he's being blackmailed. He's supremely vain and narcissistic. And that's kind of the ruling, all wrapped up in Zionism. That's the ruling ideology in the States at the moment,
Or he's been replaced. I mean, if you look at the way he was in his first administration, the second administration, Trump is almost. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions to what I'm about to say, but a lot of the things that he said and did during his first administration, I can't see him saying or doing under the second administration, and vice versa. That statement that he said right there about I'm happy to give away my personal freedoms for the military. How happy was he to give away his personal freedoms in fighting COVID? I remember, you can go listen back to old episodes of the Daily Ruckus where I dedicated like a 7-episode long series about like people wear the mask, don't wear the mask. Trump was quoted multiple times saying, hey, if you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. Me, I'm not going to wear a mask. And you hardly ever saw Trump wearing a mask, but the rest of the population in the entire world was expected to do that. And I mean, that caused a lot, but he was not willing to sacrifice that little tiny bit of personal freedom for nothing. But now he's going to do it for the military. Is this really for the military, Trump, or is it for those hidden hands pulling those strings? I shouldn't have said that, should I? I'm going to get us in trouble.
You're going to get in trouble. Most well put, Ruckus. I agree with you 100% on that. So many things, Trump 1.0 versus 2.0. It's a completely different person. And so here, Genetic Jabber 4158. Love the handle. Most of the MK Ultra documents got destroyed in, quote, the stuff involving brain to computer interface. I bet cybernetics, so-called wetware, self-assembling, self-orienting electronic semiconductor circuits. So do you think that's at play here, Genetic Jabber? We'll keep an eye on the comment threads here. And this is excellent here. What we just saw could be used as justification for renewing FISA, right? A new reason for FISA. Yeah. So perfect circular logic. I love that. That fits so nicely into the circular logic equation there, which, as we know, that's an important part of all this, is self-replicating narratives.
So while we're talking, or at some point recently here, one of those big blue check mark accounts, Mario, apparently is reading the manifesto. So I've been looking around, and interestingly enough, I had to go to the Hindustan Times to find like the most lengthy version of it that I can find.
That's Mario's favorite website, by the way. So that's probably where he.
Hindustan Times is quite interesting. It's surprising what they cover there in the detail that they get.
Well, this, just to underline that point here about FISA and everything, apparently, allegedly, these are quotes from the antagonist here to his family members. I don't understand if he's talking about like his recon trip to this place, or if he was sending these messages after the event somehow. But one of the things he's said to have said, and is in quotes here, is the security at the event is all outside, focused on protesters and current arrivals, because apparently no one thought about what happens if someone checks in the day before. Like, this level of incompetence is insane, and I very sincerely hope it's corrected by the time this country gets actually competent leadership again. Like, if I was an Iranian agent instead of an American citizen, I could have brought a damn M.A. Deuce in here and no one would have noticed SHIT. Actually insane, he added. End quote. So he's literally saying that, you know what I mean? Like that... If the goal here is to create a narrative or a situation where the government can say, yep, need more security, need more money, because Iran, even if this wasn't Iran, an Iranian agent could do something just like this. I mean, it's actually silly that he would write that and send that to someone. Again, unlikely logistics.
Yeah, but it's a way of extending possibly it could be something like that. We need to be prepared, except this is how the whole security theater works. Shooter took offense to Trump's Jesus cartoon, says Darth XO. That's actually an interesting angle, because doesn't the manifesto, when I say manifesto, I'm just laughing at the cartoonish presentation of these so-called manifestos. But anyway, he is a Christian, apparently a devout Christian, so forth. Theoretically, if Ruckus is leaning towards this is a possible organic event, or Ruckus is at least, let's say, ambivalent at this point, but is saying that there are potential organic attributes to this Daily Shooter event. If this could be one of those Ruckuses, right? It could be religious motivation, because didn't Trump offend the entire Christian world by declaring himself to be the Messiah 2 weeks ago?
Well, there's that, or I thought maybe it was that this guy was anti-Christian. So either way, just bringing bringing the religion element into it is very interesting, because that, I mean, we make that commentary here on this program and on Boiler Room, because I mean, it's the impetus for the geopolitical events that we're dealing with right now. The war with Iran is, we've got this whole Israel thing and the Third Temple, the Christian Zionism, people talking about the Antichrist stuff in the wake of the Easter and Jesus thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all in there. And now you got the technocracy stuff, shades of MK Ultra. You guys already brought up the Unabomber. These are all things that are becoming popular again with the conscious of America. So some people are rediscovering these things again for the first time. And Hesher, we've been reporting quite frequently on the Boiler Room recently about a lot of these allegedly intelligent people, big tech bros and engineers and people who deal with AI and or fiddle with that, create it, mess around with it, who seem to be going insane and or turning up missing and dead. We've got that whole narrative going as well. So I really want to just wait for the dust to settle on this and see where this goes. But Mario, I just want to point out, Patrick, you've been on top of this from the beginning, how X, the new, you are the media, these are the new people and places that they seed these narratives. And I think what Mario is doing right there, whether he knows it or not, is he's playing his part. And I can't remember who I was listening to recently who was making commentary about how outlets such as the Hindustan Times, the Guardian, are used by to propagandize against Americans because they do it through foreign newspapers. That might have actually been reporting you were mentioning on UK Column, Patrick. I'm not sure. But
well, yeah. I take some of what Hindustan Times reports with a pinch of salt because it's Mario's go-to outlet, and Mario and Elon Musk are probably the two biggest sources of fake news on that platform X, which is pretty extraordinary if you think.
And
about
why
it.
is it ranked so high in organic searches? Like I'm doing an organic search, a very common organic search, right? Like I searched Cole Allen manifesto news, right? That was my search. And the second link is Hindustan Times. I mean, that should say something to us immediately about the ranking.
It's not even regarded as a good news outlet in India, by the way.
Yeah.
Just
it's
so
like their daily beast.
But I do find it interesting because I look at what's on there, and if you think it's a kind of a laundromat for disinformation, then it's actually I do bookmark it and look at it for that reason, just to kind of keep my eyes on things. But here you go, guys. Look at this. Approve all AI surveillance contracts now, says Baba 2783. He's trying to help us with the algorithm. Thank you, Baba. YouTube likes those sort of comments.
Yeah, clearly the amount of surveillance we have thus far is not enough, which I don't understand because I can't even walk out my front door without being on a camera.
So Basil, if this event is playing into a narrative, wouldn't that be something that Palantir is excited about? More FISA renewal, more surveillance, government AI contracts. We can take care of all this. We can spot these lunatics with our pre-crime algorithm that we have at Palantir, right?
I saw Whitney Webb this week saying there's no need for Epstein anymore. Palantir is the new Epstein.
Right.
Basically, they can just pull out from the data they harvest on you any indiscretions or information that they want to compromise you with. So millions of people now effectively caught by the new Epstein. But the other thing is, if this bloke is actually organic and he's motivated by what we could call an extreme form of opposition to Trump's policies, which of course involve the mass murder of civilians all over the Middle East, and he also referenced Venezuela, didn't he? You could argue that it's surprising that there aren't more attempts on Trump's life or the life of administration officials, given the havoc that they're wreaking all over the world. There are all sorts of groups that would quite legitimately have very powerful grievances against the administration. And given that the scale of gun ownership in the United States, perhaps I'm being, I don't know, but why aren't people taking pot shots at him every day? It's so awful. But I'm just speculating there, of course.
So Eicherinful, I can't pronounce that right, saying Trump claims Pope Leo ordered the hit, you guys. Well, there we go. There we go. Pope Leo's ordered a hit on Trump. He's onward, Christian soldiers, self-deploying all over the country, taking shots at the Red Cross doctor known as Donald J. Trump. What do you guys, Ruckus, what do you think about that? Vatican conspiracy, Jesuits potentially involved?
No, I would rather believe that Trump staged the whole thing just for ratings so that people would tune into the event.
Yeah, it's kind of a big troll, isn't it, if you think about it?
It's a long time, I think, since popes ordered people to be murdered, but popes themselves have been murdered, of course, very recently. Pope John Paul I, most notably, he was in office for, coincidentally, 33 days, I think. And I watched a very good play about his murder, which was on the West End stage in London with David Suchet. Tremendous piece of work.
David Suchet.
Yeah.
Poirot.
He also played Poirot, yeah.
Poirot. Do you know, David, a little bit of trivia, guys. David Suchet's son or grandson is an RT news anchor.
Wow.
Rory Suchet. Suchet in Moscow. That he is Poirot's son or grandson.
There was John Suchet, who was on BBC News. I'm sure he's a member of the family as well.
John Suchet,
but I think John Paul I was allegedly murdered by the traditional method of pouring very powerful poison into his ear while he slept.
Jesus. That sounds like someone's angry ex-wife.
That, of course, was all tied up with the Banco Ambrosiano scandal, Paul the Gorilla Marcinkus, the P2 Masonic Lodge, etc., and Roberto Calvi, the banker found hanged under Blackfriars Bridge. But that's another whole story. We could do a show on that one day.
Wasn't it Courtney Love or some irate wife boiling hot oil and pouring it into the ear of Kurt Cobain, or maybe this is another celebrity, as a way of torturing their husband or something like I don't know. Remember that one? I can't remember.
I don't recall that one, but I'm curious.
I might have the celebrities wrong on that. Kurt Boss Messiah says, Patrick, stop ignoring my genius, please. Hesher, if you have access to the comments and posting, I'm trying to find Kurt Boss's genius, but I can't. So Kurt, you're gonna have to copy and paste your genius into a new comment, because guys, we have over 3,000 comments during the live stream already. So I can't even keep up with the speed and velocity of the comments. So Kurt, we'd love to highlight your genius, but it's a crowded field, man. So you're going to have to copy and paste that comment again. So whatever that was, please share. We'll feature your genius, Kurt. We know that you've got it in you, but yeah. So again, you guys, I'll also throw out here, Mark Wayne Mullins, the new DHS secretary, who replaced the Pantene hair model, Christine Noem. He is an Israeli pick, you guys. That guy threatened to beat somebody up during a Senate hearing. Do you remember that? So clearly it's not anybody that should be in government, let alone selected. So Israel thought, whoa, he's a psychopath. We want him as DHS. Why is Israel interested, you guys, in the Department of Homeland Security? Who's running it?
The DHS was sort of set up as a Zionist asset right at the beginning. It came into being after 9/11. 9/11 was, on the surface at least, a joint Mossad, United States deep state operation. And who did they get to run DHS? Michael Chertoff. If ever there was an Israeli asset, it's him. So the DHS is effectively an Israeli property right there at the heart of the US government, set up for the simple and sole purpose of spying on Americans and containing any anti-Israel sentiment, crafting narratives, etc., etc. Am I wrong? You live there, Hesher, Ruckus?
I mean, if someone let's just say that a outside interest, a corrupted interest, a non-American interest took over the DHS or had their fingers on the strings of the DHS. Oh, I'm sorry, I used the
it's a trope.
The antiseptic term. Oh my gosh, the trope. But if somebody was pulling the strings, there's so many agencies under DHS, right? You've got the Science and Technology Directorate, you've got the Office of the Inspector General, the U.S. Secret Service, ICE. I mean, all these different things. Other components of the DHS include the U.S. Coast Guard, Citizen Immigration Services, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. There's even like privacy offices, civil liberty offices, the Inspector General offices. So anything under that, like if Blofeld from 007 had control of the DHS, just put it completely hypothetically, they could control what happens or doesn't happen to the president. They could control what happens or doesn't happen with regards to immigration, turn it off, turn it on, weaponize it, de-weaponize it, weaponize it one way or the other. Border control, actual border control, like if something nefarious was intended to happen on the border and somebody was in control of DHS, that would be very bad. FEMA, we've seen, just go back to Alex Jones's police state if you need to. And
Rex 84, we got the documents.
Listen to all his stuff about
the documents
from the old days when he had the documents. I mean, it's an absolute disaster. Like they basically told us they were creating an umbrella system that would protect the nation from things that happened on 9/11, right? But what they did was they set up a single point of failure in the entire system, a single point of corruption. If corruption can exist at the high, mid levels of DHS, just imagine the kind of chaos that could be caused.
So you're calling that a single point of failure. To Israel, that's a single point of control. And then if you have your God,
isn't that a trope? That's a trope, isn't it?
Pulling the strings. So you guys think about it. DHS can determine what the agenda is going to be, and if the new agenda is no longer Al Qaeda, terror or Bin Ladenites or whatever, and it's Iranian sleeper cells, then that's the agenda. Then that's what's rolled out, and that's what the media run with. That's the government focus. That's all this sort of terror training drills and risk mitigation and all this other stuff. So for what I'm saying is, aside from the training that they do at the IDF, our agencies in the U.S., and then them inserting all of their people within our structures of law enforcement, they've got that agenda setting capability if they have their guy. And Mark Wayne Mullen is absolutely their guy. So maybe Kristi Noem wasn't going to cut the mustard for this next phase. But
that's right. I mean, under Biden, it was white supremacists, wasn't it, that were in the crosshairs?
That was the right-wing patriots, and under Obama was as well. Bundy Ranch, that was under Obama as well. So that was the focus there. So Michael Tracy was calling Jim Acosta out for a fight. Hilarious timeline. That would be great. Would you guys support a crowdfunder to see a boxing match between Michael Tracy and Jim Acosta? I would. 100%. I would, if they were dressed like Mexican wrestlers, I would absolutely back that event, and I would raise money for that. So yes, I support it. Roger Stone's latest marketing numbers were down. Stage and attempt numbers go up. So a lot of people are saying Roger Stone's behind this.
Yeah, well,
I would pay to watch these people get arrested and marched into prison. Anyways,
Kurt running trainers. So Kurt Boss is basically saying here, what's this? Kurt Boss Messiah, is it the curse of the genius to be ignored in his own time? So a lot of people are coming back on Kurt Boss, but he's also being called a genius. See, Kurt, you're getting extra airtime here. So we are, in a way, recognizing your genius, or some people are anyway. Come on, Patrick, the people have spoken. So again, we're just cherry picking a few.
Patrick, that whole
look at that. Kurt Boss is a genius, says Darth X. Oh, okay. So just leave us alone, Kurt. Okay, you've got your 15 minutes. Okay.
That whole follow the bouncing ball of like what DHS can do or what the media can do, like be focused on this, then be focused on this. This is the hate group. This is the terror group. I think we should all pause for a moment here and realize that this is a great setup for an Orwellian 2 minutes of hate. That's about all we have time for in the doom scroll, is just a couple minutes of hate. So think about that cybernetic feedback loop and how much control, Palantir and the government and all their connections have inside of this. And let's also not forget that Palantir is the amount of government contracts they have right now is staggering, and they just keep going up. They're fully embedded in DOD, U.S. Army, Air Force, Marines, Special Operations Command, DHS, ICE, HSI, HHS, CDC, FDA, USDA, FBI, DOJ, IRS, CIA, CBP, FAA, NSA, SSA, NASA, FEMA, Department of State, Department of Treasury, Recovery, Accountability, and Transparency Board, and a couple others.
Along with the rest of the alphabet soup, Kurt Boss, Messiah. When they combine the Bible with AI, that's when we all become the devil's playground there. Yeah, power move by Kurt Boss to take over the show. For like 5, we recognize the power move.
Should we just let him host? Maybe we should just bring him in and we should all take a break.
He's hosting it by proxy from the comment threads there. See, Kurt, we recognize you, genius. Eat your groceries, said Kurt Lazarus after Jelani came to the White House in Westminster. I don't want to hear anything about Muslimic terrorism. I like that. That's a new term. Muslimic terrorism. I had to apologize for 25 years for things I never did, says Eat Your Groceries, who is saying he is a Muslim. That's what's being inferred there. So, yes, we have a diverse crowd, a diverse audience in our comment threads here. I'm going to highlight this. One of our first super chats today. We just enabled this super chat feature, so we appreciate.
A couple last week too that we didn't shout out. By the way, thank you.
Yeah, so you guys who have donated during these comments, that's awesome. We just recently got this feature, so we're really happy. And so, government hides evidence. News at 11. Black cats rule. That's right. Black cats and black hats. You better believe it. So yeah, thank you for the super chat, you guys. So appreciate the love. So anyway, you guys, what do you think? DHS opposed Iran war. That is why Noam's husband was outed as a tranny. I don't know about that. That's a little bit speculative. What did you guys think about Kristi Noem's husband being outed as a cross-dresser? That was weird, wasn't it?
Very, very weird. Like, where are the fixers that are supposed to stop leaks like this? You would think, some sort of House of Cards person would jump in and be like, oh, no. I had to wonder if maybe they were just getting out front of that, knew that was coming out and let her go before it came out. But I don't even know why they would care. Everybody knows that this administration and the GOP in general is probably the most degenerate of all. Hate to say it, but you've got people coming out from the inside even pointing that out these days.
Yeah, I think a few more comments on Mario in the fall here. I think Mario should launch his own news website. That way he can reference his own website when he's
brilliant.
When he's breaking stories. So I'm sure it'll have a great reputation. Okay, here we go. $200 set of fake jugs. What are you talking about? You're talking about Kristi Noem. Okay. Kristi Noem's one-way dog walking service. Oof, that's pretty brutal. Do you have a problem, dog? Well, not anymore. Says the former secretary of the DHS. Why was she hired for that job? I think just because she was good-looking and very popular among the middle-aged male MAGA base. I mean, she was like...
It makes sense in the structure of the organizational chart that Hesher just laid out. I mean, that seems like a pretty important position to be at the top of such a centralized point of failure. I mean, was she really just there because she looked pretty, or was there something else going on? I wonder
think
now.
she was there for optics, and so clearly, I don't think she was running anything. She doesn't seem to me particularly competent, and the DHS is just one giant array of contracts and subcontracts. It's a mega industry in the U.S. Hesher probably has a little more insight into that, but it's like a giant section of like U.S. security industry, law enforcement, and it's all contractors and subcontractors and subcontractors. And Kirsty Noem had no idea what was going on in DHS. I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah, former governor
of South Dakota. Was she South Dakota? What's the population of South Dakota, by the way? Is it 100,000?
50.
Something like that.
50,000. Yeah.
50 people.
50 people. Yeah. There's way more cows than people in that state.
Okay, people in the comments are obsessed with Roger Stone. Did I miss something?
Yeah, like where did Roger Stone come into this?
I spoke to him once. I interviewed him in the old TNT days.
Yeah,
very well.
I interviewed Roger as well. I like Roger. I think he's brilliant. He's awesome in opposition. But I don't know where he stands with this. He's completely still loyal to the president, but still kept on the outside, I guess. But yeah, I think he probably supports Israel. So I think
I think he's been mildly critical. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to go shortly, I'm afraid, gentlemen.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird.
You froze up there for a moment, Patrick. Yeah.
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 Okay. RFK Jr. never flinched. He's used to it. What are we talking about here? Oh, was RFK Jr. on the top table? Gosh, amazing. So
he eats roadkill. He's not afraid of death.
Yeah. So yeah, we're descending into the. So anyway, we'll get back to the main theme here, guys, and your final thoughts and comments here, and that is, what the hell just happened? And yeah, thank you, Chris. Another super chat. Thank you. We appreciate you too. Thank you very much, Chris. But what the hell happened last night, you guys? And then just give us roundup comments for the week to come. Hesher, go ahead.
A giant, stupid, stage-managed psyop happened last night of some sort, and you'll never probably find out what exactly happened because you live in America. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news there. Those that the burden of proof are upon are 99% liars and psyopers, so don't expect much but narrative and more conspiracy candy for us to wander through, which will be fun. I'm here for you. I'm here for it. And we did a boiler room on Saturday night, so go to alternatecurrentradio.com and check out this weekend's boiler room if you have not yet. We had a great time, I suppose, breaking down what's going on. And there are, the simulation bleeds through. There it is right there. Thanks, Ruckus. So it's up on the site. And thanks for having me again, Patrick. And I'm sure we'll be talking again very soon about Daily Shooter program, and we can dig into this kind of thing a little bit deeper. And for people that are new over here to Sunday Wire, to 21stCenturyWire.com, and to Alternate Current Radio, you mentioned it in the beginning of the show, but we have been keenly interested in events like this and watching them since, I guess the Boston Marathon incident, and even further back. Like, we already had an interest in it at that point. So that was when we kind of started doing it in real time. I mean, we are people that were quite literally using old internet apps to listen in to police scanner radio while some of these things were happening live. We did that in San Bernardino. We did that with Boston. We did that with a few of them. So we do have a lot of experience here. Unfortunately, this is not the kind of program that you can prove the existence of, because we never have access to the final reports, the final investigations, the court proceedings, and all those things. So you'll find that as a hallmark in a lot of events like this. And that's part of the reason why we are so brave about making analysis, proclamations, assumptions, opinions, and displaying facts that are available when it comes to this kind of stuff. So we've been around for a while doing this, and wasn't expecting one of these to pop up today, but glad I was here to listen to your breakdown and contribute a little bit, Patrick. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for your contributions. I knew you'd be keenly interested in the events of the weekend, so it's great to have you on the panel after this. I don't know what to say about this one, but I think, you know what? I'm just waiting for Candace Owens and Ryan Mate or Ryan Mata. I think, yeah, Ryan Mata on that. They're just going to rip this thing apart, and so many others will too. But the Butler thing has completely come apart, by the way, for those who are not keeping up with that. It's really just unraveled badly, and it looks like that was a complete psyop. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. And Trump built his whole campaign on that. So again, back to the 60 Minutes guy with the mask on and the sunglasses. No, it wasn't Kanye West. That was a Mossad agent. Ruckus, take us away. Final thoughts on this and the week to come.
That's ironic that you brought up the Butler thing, because that was my final thought, is that this was all taking place at a time when unusually, for some strange reason, a lot of people have been starting to question that particular event. So if this was some sort of rush job, they're like, oh, well, we got to do something to try, because people are questioning the Butler thing. By the way, I think the reason people were starting to look back at the Butler thing and question it was because of the Jesus thing. Because if you remember, the other thing that's heavily associated with the Butler event is that God was protected by God and chosen by God. All this Christian stuff was very, very much attached to that event. And yes, so a lot of well-meaning, respectable people who have long, until just recently, thought that that was a real event are now finally walking that back and saying, oh my God, I think there's something up with this. So that's interesting, always something to consider. But at the end of the day, you were asking what happened last night. I have no idea. None of us really truly knows, because, you know, even if we were there, we don't know, because we're not the ones crafting the narrative. And does it truly matter what really happened, when what really matters is all of the things that are going to come as a result of it? So I'm going to wait for the dust to settle and focus on that. In the meantime,
very mature outlook there by Ruckus. It's not his first rodeo, obviously.
No, I'm not going to latch on to any theory and share it on X as if it's a fact, you know, because you got to read everything, listen to everybody, but don't believe anything unless you prove it for yourself using your own research, which is what Bill Cooper taught us. Of course, if you like my analysis, you find me doing this with my homie there, Hesher, and our colleagues over at alternatecurrentradio.com's flagship show, The Boiler Room. Then, of course, I also make appearances with Sam Chaney on Wednesday nights for Weaponized News. So you can find out more about that at alternatecurrentradio.com. And as usual, Patrick, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you very much, Ruckus. And also thank you, Tim Gibson, 3754, for the super sticker. That is awesome. Look at that. Thank you. The new super chat feature. We're just learning how to use it, and then also just getting used to calling out and thanking and recognizing the super chats coming through. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for the donations. Basil Valentine, your final thoughts on this madness that just doesn't stop. We're on
David Smith, the Guardian correspondent, writes, men in tuxedos and women in dresses dove under tables like a scene from a dozen Hollywood movies, but now it was happening to me. Shocking, unnerving, unpredictable, violent. For a decade, I've been following the twists and turns of Donald Trump's America with the privilege of journalistic distance. On Saturday night, I felt the darkness come viscerally close. Bang, bang. What was that? Where was it? At 8:36 p.m., panic and pandemonium reigned in the cavernous ballroom at the Washington Hilton Hotel. What strikes me about that is the narcissism really there from the Guardian's Washington correspondent. What happened in the ballroom at the Washington Hilton was a pinprick compared to the violence that Trump has visited on people in Gaza, in Iran, all points east, basically. And yet, when violence comes to the hallowed, sanctity of a Washington dinner for VIPs, violence is the worst thing in the world. My God, this is awful. Bang, bang. Women in dresses are having to dive under tables. Isn't this shocking? But I don't know if David Smith is as shocked by the evisceration of southern Lebanon or the Gaza Holocaust, So I do think that's interesting. This sort of tremendous disparity between somebody firing off a pop gun and causing a kerfuffle at an oligarchy event like that, and the mass murder of thousands of people, thousands of miles away, which doesn't generally warrant anything like as many column inches in The Guardian. People are massacred every day in Gaza and Lebanon, and it's just a footnote. But heavens above, somebody should fire a gun in the vicinity of the president, and we're all supposed to throw our hands up in horror, So I feel that point's well worth making. I don't know what happened. Like Ruckus said, we'll have to wait for the fallout. And
women in dresses diving under tables. I suppose under Biden that would have been men in dresses diving under tables. So just marginally better improvement, really, of the situation, but not really.
Yeah, very good. So we'll see what happens. But for Trump, it's a boost. As you said, Butler is unraveling. I saw a close-up of his ear that was supposed to have been struck by a bullet. And, either he's had some extremely effective reconstructive plastic surgery, or he was never hit at all, because his ear appears to be in perfect shape. There's no scar, there's no piece missing or anything. So that narrative, you're right, is indeed collapsing, as is the Charlie Kirk narrative. This now gives the administration, the deep state, the corporate media, the opportunity to say, look, these events are real and they're a real danger, and you are the danger, and the miscreant causes that you support are next door to extremism. You see, this manifesto, it's talking about a policy of starvation and mass murder in the Middle East, and the opportunity, I've no doubt, will be taken to associate those views with violent extremism or even terrorism, and seek to demonize them or even outlaw them further. So I'm afraid that will likely be the takeout, but I hope I'm wrong. You can see me again on UK column 1 p.m. UK time on Friday. And like the others, I say thank you, Patrick, for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Basil, for coming in. Just to reflect on what Basil said there, Sidney Collin. Problem is the U.S. is immune from that which we unleash on the world.
That's right.
It's kind of along the lines of what you're saying there here. And I'm about to throw up a very controversial comment, but very in line with Daily Shooter lore. You guys check this out here. Why not? Maybe the FBI will have to start looking into the Talmud. So so they always say, oh, there's a copy of a Quran found on the front seat of the car of the bomber, or, the terrorist or the shooter, whatever. But why not a copy of the Bible? And then we're into that narrative. Or what about a copy of the Talmud as well on the front seat of the car? How far are we from those sort of storylines being injected into some of these unlikely high-profile media shooting events and so forth, so-called domestic terror events, and the list goes on and on. So, what's this here? Basil, what will be the distraction next week from the arsonist trial? Is there an arsonist trial next week, guys? Is there some kind of high
I believe so. Yeah, the synagogue. Or the ambulances.
The ambulances in the UK.
Are in the UK, yeah.
So we should expect a media event to coincide with that, possibly another incident or something. We'll see.
there's all sorts of malfeasance going on with the UK legal system at the moment, to the extent that I can hardly talk about it.
And this Iranian terrorist group that can't spell properly, that popped up out of nowhere, that's being attributed to these such events, that's a bit suspect as well, isn't it?
And which was, of course, first identified by Rita Katz and her
Katz.
Yeah, our
Intel Center. Yes.
Never guess. That's
wow,
right.
she's still doing work. She's still.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize their doors were still open. The Intel Center there
right
in Langley, Virginia. That great counterterrorism outfit. Rita Katz. There's a blast from the past, guys. Wow. She with the incredible permatan. She makes Donald Trump look like he's pale.
And for some reason, these extraordinary links to Islamic terror groups, who get in touch with her for,
Yeah, they do. They say, well, we have a good line with all of these Al-Qaeda groups, and they usually break their stories with us first, she said. I always found that to be a little suspect.
Yeah.
But then again, that's type of paranoid conspiracy theorist and tinfoil hat wearing miscreant that I am, guys. And I think I'm in good company. But it just gets weirder and weirder, folks. You guys, it's been absolutely awesome. I'm sorry about, the Trump administration has ruined our Saturday night. I was just so looking forward to hearing the jokes that were prepared. That were written by Trump himself. It would have been so funny.
Yeah, that was the other thing. They cancelled the event, and you would have thought, well, okay, we've got rid of the gunman now. The show must go on, surely.
Yeah, sure. Lightning can't strike twice in one night, right?
Why cancel? Think of all that food that went to waste.
Yeah, Rob Schneider was the headliner. I thought was he the comedian headliner? Was his name Rob Schneider?
Yeah. He's a big MAGA supporter.
He's a big MAGA. He would have been the headliner. So they say it's going to get rescheduled. It's going to be bigger than ever, and we're going to reschedule. I don't think it's going to happen. I bet you that it's not going to happen. I just have a feeling this thing is the brand has been damaged. It would have been great if the event went off, because I bet it would have been the most gaudy, tacky sort of press correspondence event ever, and it would have been used against Trump in the worst possible way. So maybe that's why they staged it.
Maybe Rob Schneider is behind all this. Maybe he decided, you know what, this is going to ruin my comedy career if I go up and I be the person that fake roasts Trump while he's committing genocide. So, call in the crisis actors. I'm just kidding, everybody. But yeah, not a good look for Rob Schneider there. He might be the biggest winner of all.
Yeah, I heard Jerry Seinfeld and James Woods were going to make cameos, so it would have been interesting. It would have been interesting. So, you guys, thanks very much, and it's great to see everybody. Basil, yeah, another comment for Basil there, and yeah, there's so many other things coming through. Guys, appreciate your comments and appreciate all your engagement on that side. It's been amazing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you guys soon. It's been real, and have a great rest of your weekend. And thank you to our panel, and thank you to everybody that's tuned into the Sunday Wire this week here live on 21st Century Wire, alternatecurrentradio.com. There's a link to ACR, Alternate Current Radio, on the show page. I'll take you directly to their website, which you can enjoy and listen to the great content on that network, as well as support alternatecurrentradio.com, independent radio network. You see some of the major presenters there on our panel, and there's just so much more. If you do some exploring on that site, you'll find content there that you won't find anywhere else. Quite frankly, it's one of the greatest independent radio networks of all time online, and that's not exaggerating. So support ACR. As far as this program goes, you guys, really appreciate your support, and not only during the show, but afterwards as well. We've had so many new people land on our channel on YouTube and Rumble, and are supporting us on those platforms, liking, subscribing, sharing. Take the link from YouTube, from this or the latest one we did about Iron Mountain, Flat Iron Mountain, which I posted yesterday, and share that on X, share that on Facebook, just, help share the links around. That's something you can do for us. That's makes a huge difference. And so that's something, if you can. And thank you for the super chats, everybody. Really appreciate your support there. And also those of you who've donated, subscribed to become a member at 21wire.tv. There's a link on how to donate and support 21wire. It's on the link below. That'll take you to our website. There's a gold button there, donate, support, and you'll see the different options there. You'll land on a page much like this. It's got lots of different options, including crypto as well, Bitcoin, etc. You can, any which way you can donate and help us there. PayPal as well. But, subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. That's the way you can support us for just around just over $5 per month. But it goes a long way. And that's enabled us to do a lot more upgrades to what we're doing. We're still working on some new stuff now. Obviously, we started doing the outdoor shows as well, the outdoor videos and analysis that we're doing. And we're going to keep improving that. And that'll be coming, weekly on a regular basis. We just did a nice release, stunning views. If you want to see what it's like at the top of a 5,300 foot mountain, which I began climbing at 6 a.m. Last week, managed to get to the summit. It's a 3.5 hour climb, and then an hour up at the top, hour and a half, and then another 3.5 hours going down. And the whole thing was like a 7-8 hour round trip. That was grueling. But we managed to talk and, show and do some interesting stuff and have a different kind of conversation when we're up there. So, that's just a little teaser, a little taste of what's to come. And there's a lot more coming, and we can only do that with your support. So thank you guys who have supported us, and we really appreciate it. So, join the family, subscribe, and become a member at 21wire.tv. That's one way you can show your support for us on a rolling basis, and it allows us to do a lot. And we're also working on we're developing a new type of, let's say, augmented media or reality to our investigative reports at 21stcenturywire.com. So not only are we doing written reports, but there's going to be a video element to those written investigations to help kind of animate them. And that's exciting. Working on that now. And so we've got a few things we're developing in the background. We have an awesome team. And thanks. And you see the preparation for this show and the type of information you're getting about the war, etc., and all the details is because we have a great team. And you guys support that team. So it's your support that makes all that happen. And you can see how the show's just getting better and better. And it will continue to improve along those lines over time. And that's because of you guys. We are absolutely here because of you. And you guys the support's been amazing. So thank you so much. Look, that's all we got time for today. This is the Sunday Wire episode 592 of this weekly Omnibus News Analysis Radio TV program, live at 21stcenturywire.com, alternatecurrentradio.com, on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook Live, BitChute, as well as on the audio streams afterwards. If you missed any of these episodes, you can catch up on the archives. Just go to our website and you'll hit the Sunday Wire archives. Those are our show times every week, 12 till 3 Eastern time, 5 till 8 UK time. That's on Sundays. We're live every week. And you've seen our team in Overdrive. Got a great panel, great team. And we'll keep the show going. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. How accurate we were in our predictions and analysis this week, you'll find out, won't you? I hope I'm wrong on the war. I hope that there's a peace treaty signed. I hope there's peace talks that are successful. I hope Trump and the U.S. back off and use their brains and realize that it's a lost effort and it's going to be it's an economic catastrophe. I didn't even go into the details of the economy side, but it's bad. It's bad. And so anyone supporting it or not going against this war or what the U.S. administration is doing, if you're not opposing it, then I think at this point you can't claim to be neutral because the receipts are in. Okay, so you got to get out there and start talking to people about these issues. This is real now. It's not in theory. We're not going to get lucky and avoid a hyperinflationary cycle. It's coming. It's coming. The economic squeeze is already happening. The general employment numbers are terrible. this coincides with the AI boom that's pushing job losses. It's a bad combination, folks. So the war is not helping. That's why we oppose it. And it's just generally going to be negative for everybody on the planet. In fact, the only winners are the military-industrial complex, big AI, big oil and gas, and Wall Street. Those are the winners. Everyone else, you, me, everyone we know, losers. Okay, we're going to be decimated by it. And the longer it goes, the worse that pain is going to be. So guys, got to wake up and get active, got to get vocal, and got to start networking with your people as well. Look, that's all we got time for. We'll see you guys soon. And thank you as well to everybody and your messages, your super chats. Hope I got to everybody and acknowledged everybody. But yeah, don't be shy. Throw in a super chat if you can during the outro. This is Heaven Come Down from the real Anthem band. Hit the Bandcamp link in the show description. Go to Bandcamp, support, download the tracks, subscribe, follow Real Anthem Band on Bandcamp. There's a link just below in the show description if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or any of the mainstreams there. So you want to support this band. Friend of the show, lead singer Sean is absolute legend, and we appreciate being able to showcase their new tracks here on our network. So that's it. Take care, you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Show of secret talks, a cold stealing serpent calls, buildings burn, masking riot shots. It's TV terror, watch the will of God. Hey, here we are. Heaven come down. Here we are. Coast consuming all our lives. Rejuvenate, resist the pulling dark. False flags and endless wars. Mass form psychosis waged. Forced medical tyranny. The complications we'll soon see. Hey, here we are. Heaven come down. Here we are. Heaven come down. Heaven come down. Your hell is don't need war, we need peace. We need to find a release from the ties that bind our minds, from the constraints that rule our lives. Politics has failed again. Power's in the hands of dangerous men, with their fury and their rage, and minds bent with fear, greed and hate. They're dropping bombs again. They don't know that all lives are heaven sent. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now's the time for change. Tell me, do you feel the same? For here we stand in the name of love, all peoples of the world as one. The revelation needed on the street is that we're more powerful than we believe. What they don't want us to know is that the light of love we shine they can't control. The other day I spoke to God. She said to me, share this message in a song. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. Don't need war, we need peace. We need to come together in unity. We can change the world tonight when we let love be our guiding light. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times now. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine now. Now is the time. It's time to heal dividing lines for the sake of humankind now. Now is the time. It's time for us to realize that we're all one in God's mind. Now is the time. Now is the time. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace.